I felt myself being lifted and then rested down, lifted and then rested down again until the moving sensation stopped. I looked up from the car's window and caught sight of my house. I groaned. My mom is going to kill me. Blade got out of the car and lifted me up. Ugh, I groaned again. Do you want me to go through the front door? No, I snapped immediately. My window is open, take me through there. I pointed to it with my finger. He began to walk forwards and then stopped. What? I muttered. Why do you keep your window open at night? Do you know that anybody can just walk in and kidnap you? Like who? You? You're the only stalker I have. He rolled his eyes and climbed up the tree, balancing me on the branch. I'm gonna die, I groaned. Remind me to never get you drunk again, he muttered. I'm not drunk. Somebody spiked the lemonade. He lifted me up again and balanced me on the windowsill. He climbed in through and lifted me in. His eye widened when he saw my room. Wow, he muttered. You're messy. I rolled my eyes and climbed out of his arms immediately, falling down. If it weren't for his arms that caught me, I would have smashed my nose on the high heel on the ground. I finally realized what was going on and blinked a couple of times. I think you should leave, I muttered, taking my shoes off. Not before you listen to what I have to say. I know, Blade. I stood up and opened the air conditioner. You're sorry. Everybody is always sorry. But nothing happened. I know you say you don't care, but I know you do. You have to. Your jealousy has got you in denial. Wait. Hold up. Did you say jealousy? I wasn't jealous. Yes, you were. How do you know? Because I get jealous. I go crazy when I see you being talked to by some guy or held by him or dancing with him. I immediately understood what he meant. That dance with Jared, he was watching from the top steps. Fine, I snapped, stumbling to the side. I was jealous. So what? Do you like it that I was hurt? Did you feel like you've accomplished something in your life, having me admit that I went crazy after I saw you and that slut Diana? Will you let me explain what happened? Go ahead, I hiccuped. I don't care. Diana and I, we dated before I found out we were mates, only for 2 months, maybe a bit more. She found her mate and left me. Now she's back because she believes she doesn't need to be with her mate. I told her I have a mate, but she won't listen. So you decided why not knock her up? I hiccuped again. That's where you're wrong. I was home and she came. She was wearing a really long jacket. She took it off and she was wearing nothing but lingerie. I told her to leave, but she cried and said she loves me. I went up to my room to get her a shirt, and she followed me and tried to seduce me. I pushed her away and went to get her some cloths when you walked in. I shrugged. Whatever, I mumbled. Why didn't you just tell me you were jealous? I couldn't just do that. After what happened with Jared, I let out a hiccup. I couldn't go back to being that weak little girl. He rested his forehead upon mine's. Is it wrong that I like it that you were crazy jealous? I rolled my eyes. Yes. And just like that, his lips sneered, and what was about to come next was predicted. Our lips fought through the constant clouds of shame and bitterness until touchingly each other, as gently as rain kissed leaves. We broke past the barrier of discord and connected physically and mentally. I felt him all over my body. Everything was blurred in my mind. I could no longer focus on the obvious facts. My head began to spin round and round, but I found myself liking it. I craved this newborn freedom that I realized I've never felt before with anybody, not even Jared. We've never kissed and had been afraid to go too far. We've never felt that little spark of excitement when we touched because we knew it was dangerous and wrong. But how could something that feels so right be so wrong? I let my thoughts and concerns slither away, and I let Blade's muscular arms lead me to the center of my bed. He threw me in as if I waited nothing more than a rag doll and climbed in. I felt my wolf coming back to life, groaning in approval. Suddenly, all my source of pleasure stopped and Blade froze. He held my hands in his and placed his knees between mine. Shh, he whispered. He climbed under the sheets until he was beyond visibility and froze. What are you? Pretend you're asleep. Why? Suddenly, there was a slight knock on the door. I shut my eyes and laid my head down on the pillows. I felt the door opening, and footsteps made their way towards my bed. I opened my eyes the tiniest bit and saw Jason. I began to panic, because throughout my whole life, he'd always somehow known when I'd be sleeping or not. So I added a few snores here and there to make it realistic. After a minute or so, he left, shutting the door gently behind him. Blade climbed out from under the covers. "How did you hear?" He shrugged. "I'm an alpha." Even though it was dark, I still saw his golden crests, and I couldn't help but inflict my lips upon his. And just like that, we were at it again. We went no far than kissing and fell asleep, legs tangled, arms desperately clinging onto each other, savoring the moment where we can express our true feelings through physical actions. I woke up at about 9 a.m. with the biggest urge to pee. Although my head was hurting, last night was still one of the best sleeps I've ever had. I tried to untangle myself from a sleeping Blade, but soon realized that it was impossible to do so without waking him up. I tried to pull my legs from underneath his, but only succeeded in causing him to groan with protest and hold me even tighter. I signed. As much as I loved this position, I had to pee, really badly. I quickly thought of a plan and ducked my head from underneath his arms. Okay, I thought, one thing freed, all that's left is the rest of my damn body. I managed to shake on leg out of his, and feeling exhausted, I just pulled the rest of my body. That didn't end well because although I was free, I rolled away from the bed and hit the ground with a loud thud. "Ow," I muttered, standing up. And I was still in my dress from last night. I wondered how I managed to sleep in it. Oh yay, I thought, Blade. I was about to take my first step into the washroom when I felt arms circling around me and lifting me back into the bed. I screamed out loud as Blade lay me on my back and began to tickle me wildly. "Stop, Blade! I need to pee!" I managed to tell out, but I was laughing and squirming uncontrollably. "Stop!" His lips found their way up to my neck and my wriggling body relaxed. I let the feel of his gentle lips tickle me even more without a fight. Suddenly he pulled back and his given eyes shone mischievously as he said, "Okay, you can go pee." "What?" I muttered. He was letting me go after teasing me like that? He smirked. "You said you needed to pee." I sighed and got up. "Tease," I muttered. "You love it," he answered back. I couldn't help but let out a small giggle as I entered the washroom. "Stop laughing with yourself," Mom screamed from downstairs. I laughed even harder and stripped of my dress. After the quickest shower of my life, I put on the cloths that I grabbed on the way and exited. Blade was seated on my bed, shirtless and gorgeous. I let out a mental swoon and walked over. His arms grabbed me by the waist and laid me down beside him. He stroked my hair, providing me with relaxation and pleasure. "How do you feel?" he questioned. I shrugged. "I have a huge hangover, but my wolf is satisfied." He turned his head to look into my eyes. "What about your human?" I looked away, catching up on what he meant. "My human is wants more," I muttered, blushing. I didn't have to look to see that he was already smirking. I rolled my eyes and turned back to stare into his tawny jewels. "My human wants more too," he smirked, "and my wolf also hasn't had enough." I blushed but didn't avert my eyes away. Suddenly, he got up and put his shirt on. I fought the urge to groan in disappointment. "I forgot we have a pack meeting today," he said. "Oh," I muttered. "Meet me at the cliff tomorrow night." I smiled faintly. "See ya there." As he was leaving out of the window, I muttered, "Blade? Yeah?" He turned his head towards me. I placed my lips on his, kissing him long and hard. He put his hands around my waist as an attempt to deepen the kiss, but I pulled away right when I knew he was getting hungry. "Wah," he muttered, almost tripping out the window. "See you tomorrow," I smirked. He smirked back. "Tease," he muttered and jumped out. I headed downstairs afterwards, only to be met face to face with Amanda. "Ew," I muttered. "Not a nice way to start my morning." "Good morning," she greeted. "Help us prepare Jason's birthday breakfast." No thanks, I thought, picturing his face as he told me I was a traitor. Mom pulled me to the side. "What's going on, Em? What do you mean? Jason has been here for 2 days, and you two hadn't talked once." "That's not true. He offered to drive me to." "You know what I mean, Emeradly. Are you two fighting?" "No, we aren't." "What time did you come from the party last night?" "Early, actually, about 11. "Are you sure you didn't drink? I heard a lot of noises coming from your room last night." I blushed. "Yup, only lemonade." She sighed. "Go make the pancake mix." "Aye, aye, Captain." The annoying sound of everyone enjoying themselves downstairs, singing and eating the mouth-watering breakfast brought an ache to my head. It annoyed me even more that Amanda was also enjoying herself, singing the loudest and most off-key. How do you get happy birthday off-key? Happy birthday to Jason? Happy birthday to you, they all completed in a loud shout. My stomach rumbled as I imaged the food Mom had made one more time. Strawberry pancakes, vanilla ice cream waffles, and Pop's chocolate cereal. No, I thought, stop. Focus on your homework. You can't go there. Jason and Amanda are down there. I went back to doing my work and realized I've been reading question 5, but writing the answer on question 6. Ugh, I groaned and erased it all. I began to work again, and suddenly I remembered Blade's arms holding me tightly and his lips on mine. I blushed. No one was around, and still I blushed. Pathetic. I dropped my homework and lay on my back with my head dangling backwards from the bed. It's impossible to focus with Jason's birthday breakfast going on downstairs, and the fact that less than an hour ago, me and Blade had been tangled up on this very bed, our lips attacking each other like it was the best candy ever. Getting my homework done was out of the question, because no doubt I was not about to forget what happened. I let out a sigh and wished some more for Blade to be right next to me. My body urged for him in a way it never has for anybody. With Jared, I urged for his lips, but with Blade, I urged for everything. His presence, his touch, his body. Especially his body. I blushed harder and turned around to yell into my pillow. After about 10 minutes of fantasizing about Blade and Mom's food, I finally had enough. I jumped off of the bed and headed out into the hallway. My shoulder bumped into somebody as I went to turn the corner. Oh, I muttered when I saw that it was Jason and stepped around him, but he grabbed my arm and pulled me back. Wait, he said. What do you want? I said without turning around. I'm hungry. I know about last night. I rolled my eyes and turned around. What do you mean? Don't play stupid with me, Emerald. Maybe if you stopped beating around the bush, I wouldn't have to. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're acting like a dumbass about it to avoid it. Wow, Jason, your apology is so sincere, muttered sarcastically. I have nothing to be sorry for. I know who was in your room last night. I nodded and pretended to look as if I was thinking hard. Oh yeah, a lot of people. There was me, myself, and even I came. You're the hardest person to confront, you know that? I smelled another wolf inside your room last night. I wasn't born yesterday. You're right, you were born the day before. Stop it, Emerald. Stop treating this like it's a joke. Because it is a joke. Even if I did have a werewolf in my room, it could have been Lisa, John, or anybody else. I sensed a male scent. A very strong male scent, and when males are aroused, you can sense them meters away. I tried to stifle my blush. So what? You didn't used to care when Jared was here. He never slept in your bed for the night, Em. Who do you think it is? I placed my hands on my hips. I sensed an alpha, and there's only 2 alphas in our town. Jared's father and Blade, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have Jared's father in your bed. Then I guess it's pretty obvious who was in my bed, isn't it? I raised my eyebrows. I stepped away from him and headed down the stairs. I paused halfway when I heard something break, but then kept going. Sunday arrived slowly afterwards, and I found myself feeling refreshed as I waved goodbye to Amanda. Jason, who was done hugging Mom and Dad, came towards me, his arms stretched wide, as if aiming for a hug. Hell no, I thought, but was forced to hug him back due to the fire in Mom's eyes. Before he pulled away, though, he whispered in my ear, "Don't be a traitor like his father." "I'd rather be a traitor than some half dead, half alive thing," I whispered back and pulled away. Amanda came to hug me as if she'd really miss me, but I backed up. "What are you doing?" "Hugging you, silly," she laughed and spread her arms wider. "I don't think so." I turned to go back inside the house when I caught sight of Mom's face. "Get back here, Emerald." I sighed, turned around, and planted the biggest, most fake smile I could muster. "Bring it in," I yelled sarcastically. Amanda smiled as if she'd gotten what she wanted and hugged me back. "I'm gonna miss you." "You guys visit every month," I mumbled and pulled back. Her piercing giggles sent me in a frenzy. "It's too easy, shut up," I groaned thirdly. "It's 12 o'clock, Mom mumbled and hugged. Finally, after some more hugging and sarcastic remarks from myself, they left, only to be back in a month or so. Ugh, I thought, too early. I was about to book it upstairs when Mom's voice stopped me. Where are you going? Come back. Ugh, I groaned and walked back. Yeah? We both have all next week off of work, so we're going on a little trip until next Sunday. When are you leaving? I was jumping with joy inside and tried not to let it seem as if. Tonight, they said in union. What? I snapped. Tonight? Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Because we knew you'd object, said Dad. Object? I'm jumping with joy actually on the inside. Then that makes us kind of suspicious. Maybe we shouldn't leave. No, please leave. Tonight or even now, I hurriedly said. They began to chuckle. Okay, we'll pack up. Yes, I mumbled and ran upstairs. I did my remaining homework, showered and ate, gazing at the clock occasionally, hoping it's been an hour every time so that I'm a bit closer to seeing Blade. Mom and Dad were standing by the door when they called me downstairs to say goodbye. We hugged and said our goodbyes for about 10 minutes. Okay, emergency and food money on the counter. We'll call and check up every day. Call if you need anything, said Mom with one last kiss on the forehead. Okay, Mom. Just because we won't be here doesn't mean you get a break from chores. Okay, Mom. In fact, the laundry still needs to be done. Okay, Mom. And no parties or boys in the house. Got it? Yeah, right, laughed Dad. I punched him in the arm. Whatever. They finally left, Mom waving frantically until their car fully disappeared, and when it did, I jumped inside the house and did a little dance. Finally, I thought, and ran into the kitchen to look for the money they left me. A break from Jason, Amanda, Mom, and Dad was just what I needed. Finally, a week to be the adult I know I am. I searched for the money for about 5 minutes before giving up. Where the hell was it? I saw a plate of cookies on the table and munched on them while calling Mom and Dad. Yes, Mom answered. It's been 5 minutes, Em. Yeah, I know. Where's the money? Did you check the kitchen table? Yes, I snapped. Did you really check? Or did you get distracted by the oatmeal cookies? How did she know? Both. Did you check under the plate? Oh, that's why it's placed strangely, I muttered and grabbed the money from underneath. Bye, Emerald, she said, and I could imagine her perfectly rolling her eyes. Bye, Mommy, I said in my sweetest voice. Finally, now I can start being the adult I know I am. After about 3 hours of watching Gossip Girl reruns, I checked the time. 10:27. Shut! I muttered and ran upstairs to get ready. It took me about 25 minutes to get ready, and when I finished, I realized I had 5 minutes to get there. And so I ran through my open window and shifted in the air. The cold night breeze hit my furry face with force, but I found myself liking it. All day, I've been awaiting this moment of so much eagerness and anxiety that I just ran as fast as I could and reached the cliff in less than 3 minutes after stopping by a nearby tree and shifting into my human, wearing a spare test shirt I had of Blade's. Blade was there, standing by the edge in all of his human-formed glory, bare-cheated and mouth-watering. I wanted nothing more than to run my hands all over his sculptured body, feeling every patch of skin that must have been made with a little bit more attention. Was it fair for someone to look so majestic and beautiful? I stood there, struck like an idiot, fumbling over my dirty thoughts, trying to keep myself from attacking him from behind. I tried to tie a mental leash around my excited hormones as I planned my first words. Maybe I should start with something dramatic, like they do in the movies. Something like, I see you have been awaiting my marvelous arrival, and I hope I am not disappointing with my appearance. Nah, too over the top. We are after all in the 21st century. Okay, maybe something a bit more like what I'm feeling. I see you're bare, chested, let's see if I can get you bare, everything and then attack you. I blushed just thinking about saying that. Suddenly, I heard him chuckle. You've been standing there for 10 minutes, just staring at my back. He turned around, his eyes shining like the golden skies I see during dawn. I realized that I was always comparing his eyes to something, when in reality, there was nothing in comparison. I was trying to figure out something to say. I didn't think this would be my first line. He laughed gently. Something about it was off, though, like it was forced. My wolf immediately deducted something, but I shrugged it off. I was simply looking for something wrong since last time I saw Blade was too good to be true. We sat against the biggest boulder like usual and talked. No kissing was involved this time, for me to realize that I was truly developing real feelings for him. Feelings that I haven't felt in a long time, not even with Jared. It was a desperate sort of feeling, one that made me want to hold on to something amazing and indescribable because one wrong move can result in an end to all this. With Jared, I knew I'd always have him. He was always there. I never had to worry. With Blade, it was a hungry and demanding feeling. I always wanted him near, and I wasn't afraid to admit it to myself. Although I was afraid of it all in general, was it really good for me to develop feelings for him at a time like this? I gave a mental shrug and held his icy hands. That seemed to snap him out of the zone he was in and turned to smile at me. My wolf has been feeling refreshed ever since yesterday. He nodded like he wasn't quite paying attention. Me too. I really hope it lasts. I know for a fact that it will with my human. I blushed madly. I was expecting him to smirk cockily and tell me the same, but instead, his eyes were glued to the reflection of the water, as if his thoughts were somewhere else. I left about half an hour later disappointed, after he said he had to get back to his pack. I honestly didn't know what I was expecting to explain the large amount of disappointment that piled beneath my remaining organs. Maybe I was secretly hoping for another long and sweet makeout, or maybe a deep, personal conversation. His head seemed nowhere near me tonight, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. The rest of the week passed by as slowly as it possibly can. Each day felt like 10, and Blade seemed nowhere to be found, and I realized other than going to his house, there's no other way to contact him. Does he have an email? Or even a phone? He had a phone. I remembered him talking to Diana on it, but I didn't even know the number. Friday night, my wolf was overly upset, and the strings she was holding onto were letting go. I ran into the woods, hoping he'd sense me, but he was nowhere near the cliff. A sense of déjà vu hit me, and I ran to where his house was located, only to find his pack and the leader of mines in a deep-heated discussion in his backyard. Now, I knew he was definitely keeping a secret. After a long night filled with no sleep, it was finally Saturday, and I realized Mom and Dad were coming home tonight. Relief filled the inside of my body and later portrayed on my face. I was tired of doing the chores for the past week, despite the fact that it was just me in the house, and I was anxious for their arrival. Also, I was excited to see what they had gotten me, not that I had high expectations or anything. Another reason I couldn't wait for their arrival was the fact that I hadn't eaten a proper home-cooked meal in days. My attempt with the barbecue didn't go so well, and let's just say we're now short 2 cooking spatulas and a whole bag of coal, and a whole patch of grass on our lawn that is now either ashes or a crispy brown. Thinking this much about it, I realized I really missed my parents. The rest of the day, I spent thinking about the meeting in Blade's backyard that had both of the alphas in this town. They're absolute enemies to the point where they can't even sit in a room together for 30 minutes. So what would they be doing attending each other's meetings like pack members? I couldn't get the subject out of my head for the whole day. Another thing poking into my brain was Blade's behavior. He'd been so strange the night we met, and he suddenly disappeared for a whole week. I realized that I was becoming obsessed with his presence, the knowledge of doings, and everything else about him. It was exciting me in a way that was also frightening. Mom and Dad arrived earlier than they planned at 8 o'clock. "Mom! Dad!" I yelled as they unlocked the door. They only managed to drop their bags before I tackled them both. "I miss you guys so much," I yelled, jumping up and down. Mom was laughing, but Dad was complaining about his back. I pulled back and was immediately attacked with, "What did you break?" "Nothing. What did you get me?" First of all, they both sat down and unzipped their luggage. "Look at what we got ourselves." Dad pulled out a full-body apron with a guy's body on it from neck to toe. He was wearing only underwear and was bulking with muscles. "Wow, Dad, looks like you a lot," I muttered sarcastically. Mom pulled out hers, which was also a full-body apron with a bikini model's body on it. "Gorgeous, Mom," I muttered. "Don't you love them? We've been wanting them for years, but you and Jason were too young, it would have been inappropriate." It's fine now? I laughed out loud. Yes, it is, they answered together. So what did you get me? I asked. Is that the only reason you were excited to see us? Of course not. I burned Dad's barbecue, that's why. Anyways, where is my gift? What? Boomed Dad. I'm kidding, I lied. You almost gave me a heart attack. Shh, I thought. So where's my gift? Mom threw a huge box into my lap. This is so big, but it's so light. Is it empty? Just open it. I opened the box, only to be met with another box, a bit smaller. I opened that one, only to be met with another one. Seriously, guys? Just keep going. I kept on opening the boxes, and I was getting more excited after each one. Finally, 15 or 16 boxes later, I was met with the most beautiful peacock iPhone case. So, Mom studied my face. I was expecting a diamond, but... Emerald, I'm joking. Thank you. I love it. You better. We got Amanda a matching one. What? I snapped. Seriously, why? So what did you cook for us? Give me a second. I ran into the kitchen and threw the cold pizza into the microwave. After a couple of minutes, I placed it on the dining table and yelled, "Dinner's done." Mom rolled her eyes when she saw the food, but ate it nevertheless. So do you guys know if there's a pack meeting soon? I asked. Yeah, there's one tomorrow in the morning, Mom answered. Do you know what's it about? Nope, should be important. We haven't had one in a while. Next day, I had my speech memorized and ready. I was planning on confronting Jared's father and demanding answers to as what he was doing in the enemy's house. Part of me hoped they were developing some type of partnership, so the idea of me and Blade being mates wouldn't be shunned immediately, but I doubted it since my own brother thinks I'm a traitor. We got to the pack house and caught sight of Amanda and Jason already there. My mother ran towards her, clutching the matching peacock cell phone case she got for me and her. I sighed and followed, my eyes searching for Jared. I haven't talked to him since the party last week. I also hardly saw him during school. OMG, aren't you so happy that your mom got us these matching peacock iPhone cases? Amanda's squeaky voice slapped me back to reality. Yeah, totally, I muttered sarcastically. We should also get matching lingerie. Really? Name your time and place. I was joking, relax. Emerald, behave, snapped Mom. Whatever. I saw Jason peeking at me through his lashes and rolled my eyes. Don't be a stranger. I walked away and took a seat inside the house on one of the chairs. The meeting began 15 minutes later, which means I spent 15 minutes texting, so I wouldn't look like a loner. I wasn't really texting, just looking through my old texts and tapping the screen wildly. Finally, the room was full with a couple hundred people, and Jared's father stepped up on stage and began. Good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a good weekend so far. Everybody mumbled their yeses or nos. One day from behind whistled loudly, causing a few people to laugh. Okay, said Jared's father. You all have been probably wondering why we haven't had a meeting in so long. Well, it's simply, there was nothing going on. But we have received some information a couple of nights ago that a new Rouge pack has moved near and they keep heading closer. It's nothing serious, I'm sure, but we just want to make sure it's safe. This is it, I thought. This is where I stand up and ask what he was doing with the enemies. Any second now, I thought, I'll stand up and shout it. But that never happened, and when the meeting ended, 25 minutes later, I knew it was too late. After the meeting, I caught sight of Jared's father speaking with a bunch of little kids. You know what? You guys keep eating those broccolis, and when you're older, you can fight off rouges. But they taste so bad, whines a little girl. But they're good for you. Any more questions? I have one. I finally gained courage and stepped forward. Emerald, hello, long time no see. What's your question? What were you doing 2 nights ago at the enemy's pack meeting? His face turned red and he pulled me aside. How did you find out? I pulled my arm out of his grasp. He sighed. I had no choice. It isn't just a small Rouge pack nearing. It's the Rouge pack. They've been known for destroying packs, wiping them from town to town. I needed their help because they had inside information that could help. So what? You're suddenly in partnership with them? Just for a little while. You can't tell anybody. So you've been lying to everybody here? To keep them from freaking out. It's the only way. Fine, I won't tell. Thank you. The ride home was silent, and I focused my thoughts mainly on what the Alpha had said. If he's only building a partnership with them for a little while, I had to tell them soon. I was also nervous about this new rouge pack. Hopefully, they're not dangerous. I knew that I had to see Blade tonight. It was urgent. I left my house and ran into the woods, shifting into a human behind some tree and meeting him at the cliff. As always, it was refreshing to be with him. Blade, I muttered and waited for him to turn. When he did, he showed no expression. We walked together into the trees, and I decided to get straight to the point. "Can I ask you a question?" I asked, not letting my eyes meet his. "You already did," he said. I would have rolled my eyes and laughed if it weren't for the way he had said it, like a complete jerk. "I meant another one." "Go ahead. Why was our alpha at your pack meeting? How did you know that?" "I was out for a run and I saw more like stalk." "Can you blame me? You practically disappear right after that night. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? All we did was make out. You're still a virgin, right?" "Well, for me, making out is normal." "Why are you such a douche all of the sudden? What happened? Did I do something?" "You're so pathetic sometimes, always blaming yourself." "Are you going to tell me what's going on with our packs?" "You seem to already know. Jared's dad told me about the Rouge pack attacking. Aren't you the least bit nervous?" "Yeah, sure," he muttered, playing with a tree branch. "You don't look nervous. What do you want me to do? Burst out in tears?" I was getting extremely frustrated with his behavior. Had I honestly done something? Why did he burst out in the jerk he used to be all of the sudden? "Do you need a little extra strength for your wolf?" I asked softly. I decided if my words can't put him to his right mind, maybe my kisses will. He knew what I was suggesting, yet he scrunched up his face. "What do you mean?" I stepped closer and leaned my lips in. Suddenly, he pushed me away. "What are you doing?" he snapped, my face heated in rejection and embarrassment, and I looked up at him angrily. I felt my wolf getting hurt and sliding back into her shell. "Why are you acting so strange?" "Look who's talking. You tried to kiss me. Because we're mates and you need strength for the rouges. I'd rather take a few trips to the gym. No thank you." "Why are you suddenly such a duck?" "Honestly, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of sneaking around with you, never able to be with you, but never able to just leave you. You're like a huge weight on my shoulders that's always there, never leaving." I studied his face, letting his words trickle upon me like bombs. "I didn't know you felt that way. Where is this coming from? I decided that I'm never going to have you anyway, so why not let my wolf die? As soon as he does, I won't want you anymore. I can have other girls, even if I'll be half dead, half alive. I'll probably still have my good looks." "I don't believe you. You're a liar. You said yourself you feel things for me as a human, not just as a wolf. It's ironic how you've been believing every lie I tell you, but this one thing I decide to be truthful to you about, you don't believe." It was the sudden shock of hearing the words escape his lips that paralyzed me. It wasn't much the meaning that froze every running cell in my body, but rather how he said it. With confidence and no pain whatsoever. He was crouched, leaning on the tree so carelessly, unaware of the impact of his words. There was no trait, no clue at all that shows maybe he's faking for the good of us. He was smiling, almost mockingly, his amused eyes never leaving mine's. I searched for a glint, a hidden trace of the soft golden I used to love, but these new eyes belonged to a different person. They burned amber with pupils as black as a moonless night. I wanted to call out for the Blade I knew, the one that was rock hard on the outside but soft and caring on the inside. This new thing that possessed him was a rock, inside and out. I knew I seemed pathetic, standing there, not breathing, afraid of triggering the moment, and afraid that if I make a move, he'd continue on talking and break the shreds of my heart to a million more pieces. Just like delicate glass, I carried the moment on my shoulders. I wanted nothing more but to drop it and shatter this haunting glass, but I was afraid. Too afraid to move, talk, or even breathe. Life seemed to have frozen, but from the corners of my eyes I saw the wind still rustling the tree leaves, and with my ears I heard the birds still singing. Life seemed to have frozen just for me. I managed to nod my head and turn away. I held back my tears with every muscle in my face with as much strength as I could possibly muster. I took a step forward and awaited his voice that will call out to me to come back. Maybe it's an April Fool's joke. Maybe it's all a prank. Is it even April? I didn't know. Everything that was there scattered out of my brain and left me bare, stripped with nothing to cover myself with except pain. But as I walked away, disappearing further and further into the forest, nothing held me back. Not even the usual crowds of trees slowed down my pace. I let my head turn back to look at the tree he was leaning against, but he wasn't there. Gone already, careless to the newborn pain breaking out inside of me. I almost laughed at the irony. With Jared, I couldn't stop crying, but with Blade, I couldn't cry. I didn't need to use my face muscles to muster the tears anymore. Maybe this pain has exceeded crying? Then what is there for me to shed if it isn't tears? Blade's pav. It had to be done. I had to do it. I kept reminding myself as I ran home, ignoring the angry gnawing of the other soul inside of me. It was urgent. Either be with her, therefore putting her in danger, or let her go. I chose the one best for her. It was certain the arouses would attack. Any day, actually, and some of them already know who my mate is. They were smart enough to find out, and the first thing they'll do to avert my attention from the attack is to kill her, just so I wouldn't be as strong and I'll lack any will to carry on. I couldn't put her in that kind of danger. Not again. It was hard, no doubt, almost impossible, pretending like I never cared for her. My whole life, I've never cared about somebody as I care for her. Not even myself. I hated knowing that I'd jump off a bridge for her, or even take a bullet. My mind didn't think twice with the answer. I'll have to pretend that I was mateless. A mateless, shifted alpha, that's a first. I knew I couldn't stop there with Emerald, though. I had to hurt her enough that she hated me. She probably already does. But I had to make her loathe me in a way that she wouldn't care if I died. That way, if I did get hurt in the attack, she wouldn't come after me, risking herself and putting herself recklessly in danger. I tried not to think about how much pain I've caused her. Leaning against the tree, her innocent face looking so vulnerable, so confused. I wanted nothing more than to break down and beg for her forgiveness. The hardest part was when she went to give me a kiss. I wanted to, so badly, to just grab her face and lay my lips upon hers. Her emerald eyes lit up like lanterns in the night. They remained blocking my vision, and I saw nothing more than her. It was strange, spending all my life hating girls, using them for nothing more than sleeping around. I realized how Emerald has changed me in ways I didn't even know. I also realized how much of a disappointment I would have been to my mother if she was still around, using women as toys to relieve my anger. Would she be proud of me to see that I've changed? I've fallen for a girl that made me see women as so much more. Proper women, of course, and not the ones who want to sleep around like Tracy and Stella. I sighed as I entered my empty house and took a seat at one of the sofas. My lips were quivering. I shut my eyes tightly and dreamed of a world where Emerald and I could be together. Emerald's pav. The weekend went by surprisingly fast, which is weird considering the fact I'd spent all my time in my room. I'd daze off, forgetting myself and losing myself in my thoughts. Before I knew it, I was in my car and heading to school, mindless to the fact that Blade would be there. How would I react to his presence and the fact that he's in the same building as me? How could I remain calm as my brain tells me to when there's chaos inside my brain? The second I stepped out of my car, though, my eyes immediately darted side to side, searching for none other than Blade. I sighed. I wouldn't last the day. His harsh words still echoed in my brain like bells. I guess it's true what they say. People always remember the most hurtful things, but never the nicest things. I headed to math class already a couple of minutes late, but when the teacher still hasn't arrived when I took a seat. "Hey," muttered John. "What's up?" "Nothing much. You look like you haven't slept for days." "Thanks for pointing that out," I muttered. "You okay? You can talk to me about it if you want." "Nope, just want my space," he smiled. "No problem." "Oh, Lisa wanted me to mention this party to you next Friday, I think." "Hell no, no more parties with me," I muttered, blushing at the thought of how that night ended for me. Lunch arrived 2 hours later, and I eagerly entered the cafeteria, munching on my food before I was even seated. My eyes darted around, already in search for Blade, but he was nowhere to be seen. Lisa looked up at me confused. What's wrong? Nothing, I muttered. Yeah, right. What's wrong, Em? Your eyes are purple. It's a new makeup I'm trying out. Sucks really bad. You're the worst lair I've ever met. Do we need to have the cheesy friendship talk again? She asked. No, we don't. Then what's wrong? I thought we're past old secrets. But new ones developed, I muttered, and they suck 10 times as bad. Is it? Yup, Mr. Alpha. Boys suck. I know, but it's all good. My voice went higher at the end. My eyes teared up, but I quickly blinked the wetness away. You'll be okay? Asked Lisa, placing her hand on mine. Yup, I smiled and looked away. What are we talking about? Mumbled John from behind, throwing me a lemonade and a Coke to Lisa. The tragic weather in Mexico, I replied. Ahoo, that's how I know you're lying. Suddenly, a girl from student council popped up from behind. Hey, Emerald. Hey, Lisa. Hey, we both said. I recognized the girl as Emily from science. She was more of Lisa's friend and was known as the gossip update of the school. Guess who's the school's new-it couple? Romania and Evan? Asked Lisa. I always hoped they'd date. They both love drama so much they fit together perfectly, but no, not them. Then who? She didn't have to say anything else because I got my answer as soon as I tilted my head back to look at the cafeteria doors. Walking in was Blade and Tracy hand in hand, and many gasped because Blade, the biggest player, was finally settling down. And for none other than Tracy Hawthorne, the school's biggest. Well, let's just say she gets around a lot, with many boys. Every swear word I could think of jumbled up into my brain, and I felt as if a vessel just exploded. My vision was blocked for a couple of seconds, and my heart began to pound widely. Emerald, mumbled Lisa. I wasn't thinking as I darted up and knocked back my chair. As everyone's eyes averted towards me, the only logical thing seemed to just flee the scene. The pressure of having Blade's eyes on me, probably amused with the whiplash I've developed, it was too much. I needed to leave. And that's exactly what I did. I stumbled to get away, shaking off Lisa's grasp. I heard her get up, trying to run after me when John's voice told her I needed to be alone. I ran out of the cafeteria, my tears streaming down my face like rivers. I realized I was just another teen girl who cries over every guy. Maybe it's because I haven't had enough experience with the whole dating thing. I've only ever dated Jared, and I didn't know what the hell me and Blade were. My brain seemed to have melted away throughout time as I searched for a bathroom, cursing the amount of people in the hallways. My heart throbbed. It didn't exactly beat loudly. It throbbed with pain, like bruises or a burn. My knees shook and wobbled beneath me. I feared that I'd collapse any moment. I couldn't even sense my wolf. There were no strings anymore connecting me to her. She's finally had enough. My hands shook with hurry as I urged for a cover. I wanted to hide away from this terrible reality and mask myself within my fantasies. I urged for a disguise, something that will seal my pain until I could bear with it. My attention was averted to my grief when I turned the corner and bumped into something hard. Or rather, someone. Immediately, I was having a déjà vu moment of when I ran into Blade. The person's drink spilled over both off us, and I shouted my apologies as I attempted to clean the soda from his clothing with my bare hands. I'm sorry. I wasn't watching where I was going. I didn't see you. I'm really sorry. I made sure to keep my face hidden and away from his view. Spilling his drink was already embarrassing enough. The last thing I needed was for him to see the streams of mascara running down my face with tears. He grabbed my wrists that were moving rapidly, wiping soda from his clothing, and stopped them. He cut off my apologies with his own. It's fine. I wasn't looking where I was going either. When I replied with silence, he attempted to cool down the mood by cracking a joke. It's my fault. Teenage girls and open soda is really dangerous, so I should have known, right? I looked up at him for the first time and realized he had the prettiest ocean green eyes that sparked with humor. His brown hair looked messy and uncombed in a way that gave him a rugged look. It went really well with him. Are you okay? He asked, his face transforming into one of concern. He pulled out a napkin from his pocket and handed it to me. I wiped the tears from my eyes and nodded. Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry again about the soda. I gotta go. Wait, he grabbed my arm as I went to leave. You don't look okay. Can I help? No, it's fine. I'm fine. Are you sure? Yeah, positive. Just allergies, probably to this stupid mascara. Well, I'm Jace. I just moved here. I'm Emerald, I muttered as he released his grip on my wrist. Like the eyes? I nodded and walked away. I thought about skipping next period because I was in no shape or form to be around Blade. I knew it was wrong, but in all my school days, I've only skipped twice, and both times were personal problems. I think it would be all right if I skipped just one more class. So I decided to skip, and I was almost out of the school when I heard Mr. Jeff's roaring voice as he called me back. What do you think you're doing? Ugh, I forgot that Mr. Jeff always haunts down skippers. I was getting something from my car and going straight to class. Oh, really? And what was that? I thought about the one thing that could possibly end this conversation and not get me in trouble, and as embarrassing as it was, I still said it. A tampon. He blushed scarlet red. Go to class. I sighed and obeyed. We reached the classroom, and he made me do what he does with all his skippers. He made me stand in front of the class, and he gave me one of his shame on you speeches. This class was an attempted skip, but I caught her, ha. He laughed. I caught her. I felt Blade's amused eyes on me, but I didn't dare turn my head. After a whole minute of that torture, he sat me down. Since everybody already has a partner, you'll be with Jace. My eyes darted back to where he sat at the end of the classroom, recognizing him as the guy I bumped into in the hallways. He sent me a smile, and I looked away, embarrassed. Okay, everybody go to your stations. I stood up and followed Jace to our station. And as if irony and misery had mated, our station was right next to Blade's. Hey, Emerald, right? I remember you from earlier today, said Jace. I felt eyes on me, and I knew it was Blade. His gaze filled me up with so much heat and desire, it was hard not to look back at him. Yeah, I don't usually meet look like that, I forced a smile. It's fine. High school sucks, so it's normal. I smiled, relieved at how easygoing and non-pushy he was. So? He muttered while mixing two chemicals together, turning them blue. Is Mr. Jeff always so? Yup, I muttered. He laughed. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't? It was hard to focus on the conversation when all I really wanted to do was push Jace aside and turn to face Blade. I wanted the same Blade that kissed me that night in my room. The one that planted small little pecks on the edge of my neck, feeding me so much desire but always leaving me hungry for more. I realized that Jace had been talking to me, but I wasn't listening, in my old school. He was almost as intimidating as Mr. Jeff. I was always so afraid of him, but I'm afraid of Mr. Jeff more now. My old teacher doesn't seem so scary now. I smiled despite missing half of what he was saying, just to make it seem as if I was paying attention. And so for the next couple of minutes, I just smiled and muttered, yeah. You're totally zoned out, aren't you? He chuckled after 5 minutes. What makes you say that? I asked. Because I just said you look like Mr. Jeff, and you said, yeah. I slapped him hard on the arm. You! I do not! He laughed. Finally! A reaction! You're terrible. I snapped but couldn't help the laugh that escaped my lips. I felt the heat of Blade's eyes becoming more intense and dug my nails to table. You have a really cute smile, said Jace. Before I had a chance to reply, I heard a growl that sent my wolf in a frenzy. What the hell was that? Muttered all the human kids in the class. Probably some class watching TV, answered Mr. Jeff. Or a werewolf, winked Jace. I muttered. Yup, new member of your pack. Welcome, then. Thanks. I was hoping you'd show me around the school, though. Maybe tomorrow? Then go for a coffee or something. I never got the chance to answer because Blade appeared out of nowhere and bumped into Jace, spilling all of his boiled water on him. Holy shit! Shouted Jace, holding his shirt out. Oh my God! Take your shirt off! I screamed. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean that, muttered Blade, not looking sorry at all. It's fine. It was an accident, choked out Jace, with hardly any ability to talk. I glared at Blade, but he just shrugged his shoulders as if it was honestly an accident. Mr. Jeff appeared with some sort of cloth and waited for Jace to take off his shirt. His skin was oozing already and was as red as a tomato. Mr. Jeff placed the cloth on his chest and led him out of the classroom. Within a couple of seconds, everybody went back to work. I glanced at Blade. I don't get it. You go and become Tracy's boyfriend, and then you spill boiled water on Jace just because he asked me to show him around. "It was an accident," he muttered simply. My eyes widened, and I honestly didn't know how to react. And so I reacted in the safest way and snapped, "You're a deck," before going back to my station. I headed home that day after the incident with Blade, my insides flaring with anger and confusion. It wasn't fair, really, how he gets to make all the shots. He decides exactly when to break my heart and then goes on and burns the chest of some guy who was simply talking to me. Something inside of me told me he was jealous, but I couldn't believe it. Not when he decided to run over my feelings with a damn four-wheeler. Jealousy couldn't be it. I thought back to what he had told me, the thing that broke my heart the most. "It's ironic how you've been believing every lie I tell you, but this one thing I decide to be truthful to you about, you don't believe." So the whole thing has been a lie to him, a game that he possessed where he played with my emotions like a movie script. But what could he have possibly gained out of it all? What was the purpose? The newborn feeling of what success? Being the punisher of the punished? I was clearly the punished, but for what? Suddenly, it all seemed clear to me. He was making me pay, just as I had caused him to. I left him to shift alone, and he decided on a little revenge. Tears coursed my eyes, and I blinked as an attempt to discard them. He must have known I had no idea. I admit, I was blinded by the risky thought that my mate would be Jared. I should have taken a look around and stopped being so damn stupid, but I'm not perfect, and I apologized thousands of times. Maybe I deserved it. I remembered the pain of shifting. I felt paralyzed despite everything in my body moving. The pain of my bones collapsing on each other, my limbs breaking and reforming. It was the hardest thing, and I think I would have died if Blade hadn't showed up. I honestly couldn't believe how he survived it alone. I guess the pain stuck with him and his anger still pulsed with him as he led me on. He hated me all that time. My heart thudded, and I thought of how much I deserved and didn't deserve it. Well, I thought, what does it matter whether I deserved it or not? He won, didn't he? He had me wrapped around his pinky, falling deeper and deeper for him, unaware of the pit of lava awaiting me below. I didn't find it in me to be angry anymore. This cloud of shameful sadness that's overcame me held me hostage. I felt tired. Was it always within his plans to lose his ability to shift? Did he not care? Maybe he was sick of being a werewolf. Perhaps he wanted to be some half-living, half-dead thing. As he said, he'll probably still have his good looks. I tried to sense my wolf, but she was nowhere to be found. How can she, when her mate turned out to be her biggest traitor? My fingers trembled as I fought to finish the last bit of my homework. Just one more question, I thought. A knock on the door interrupted my attempt. "Come in," I answered. Mom popped her head. "There's a pack meeting tonight. I think your father said it was about a new member or something. I don't know." "What time?" I asked, assuming the meeting was to welcome Jace and his family. 6 o'clock. I looked up at the time. I only had half an hour to get dressed. "You could have told me earlier." "Sorry, forgot." She shut the door, leaving me to get dressed. I put on anything clean, which consisted of black jeans, a nude-colored tank top, and a red cardigan. We left the house about 10 minutes later, arriving at the pack house in less than 15. My eyes darted around and recognized some faces. Lisa and John stood by Lisa's dad, who was no doubt talking about golf because John looked ready to shoot himself. Jared and Jasmine were there, seated on the sofas, talking. Jason and Amanda were kissing, which brought a look of disgust on my face. Gross, I thought as I whipped my sight away. Finally, I spotted Jace, smiling brightly, talking to some of our members. I noticed his chest seemed a bit too puffed out. I remembered the second-degree burn Blade had given him. He probably put some sort of cooler patch on there. When he caught me staring at him, he sent me a friendly wink. I smiled back and turned to my mother, who was comforting Dad about his broken Ba-Q, promising she'd get him a better one. Oh yeah, I thought. I broke it. The meeting began a couple of minutes later, and Jared's father took the stage to welcome Jace. "So please help me welcome the new member of Silver Reflections, Jace Heatherston." We all clapped as he took the stage and bowed. "Thank you, everyone. I'm really proud to be a member of the Silver Reflections pack. You've done a great job making me feel welcomed. I promise to be as loyal as I can and to always protect my pack." After the new member pledge, Jace was officially a member of the Silver Reflections pack. Everybody clapped, and I realized he was alone. He didn't join with any parents or family. He approached me afterwards, smiling in a friendly manner. "What's up?" he asked. "You tell me, how's it feel being the new member of Silver Reflections?" I smiled back. "Honestly, it feels great. I haven't felt this welcomed in a long time, and I love it." "That's cool. I just remembered I didn't apologize for the incident during school today. Is your chest okay?" "Yeah, I put some cloth on it." I thought it seemed puffier. "Who was that guy that bumped into me?" "That was Blade Russell, Alpha of the enemy pack." "Oh yeah, I've heard of him." "Yeah, he's a douche. I'm pretty sure he didn't mean to spill that water on me, so it's all cool." "So are you alone?" "Yeah," he muttered, seeming uncomfortable. "Ever since I turned 18, I got used to being just me." "So you've shifted? Where's your mate?" "Dead." "I'm so sorry," I immediately said. "Great job, Em, I though. Way to ruin the conversation." "I honestly didn't mean it," I went on. "It's cool, happened about a year ago, so I'm fine." "Swear, my pack got attacked by some pack who thought we were rouges. They killed my parents and my mate. I couldn't really stay there anymore, so I kept traveling to different places. This is my third." "Well, you know what they say." I smiled, trying to ease the mood. "Third time is the charm, so hopefully you'll stay." He flashed me his pearly whites, revealing dimples as deep as his pain. "You're the first one to respond that way." "What can I say? I'm one of a kind," I joked. "I've realized," he said. "Do you know what I just realized?" I said, staring into his eyes. "What?" "We has matching green eyes. But yours are prettier." I blushed. "Aren't you a gentleman?" "Well, I have to be since my other job consists of making damsels in distress blush." My smile dimmed when I remembered Blade saying something like that. "I wasn't blushing," I joked. "Hey, I was meaning to ask you something today during science, before I got my chest burned." "Oh yeah," I laughed. "Do you think we can meet up after school or something? I really need somebody to show me around, and since I'm alone, I really need somebody to show me around town." My first impression was to refuse, but my heart clenched when he mentioned that he was alone. "Come on, Emerald, he's been through a lot." "Sure," I finally said. "Why not? Meet you at the school's main entrance at 3 o'clock tomorrow?" "Awesome. See you there." Next morning arrived quickly, and I found myself even more tired and even more depressed. My reflection in the mirror was hardly recognizable anymore. I had purple bags under my eyes and enough eye puffiness to scare away anybody. I got dressed in some jeans and a top, heading downstairs slowly. The smell of breakfast made me want to puke, and I decided to skip it. "Em?" Mom's voice stopped me from leaving the house. "Yeah," I croaked. "Why aren't you eating?" "I'm not hungry." "You didn't eat dinner also. What's wrong?" "I'm just not hungry." She finally turned the corner and saw me. "Did you get any sleep at all last night? The bags under your eyes are huge." "Yeah, Mom, I'm gonna be late." "You aren't leaving until you eat something." "Are you serious?" "Damn right, you look terrible." She led me to the kitchen table and placed a plate of waffles in front of me that I'd usually drool over. Today, I wanted nothing more but to push them away and puke. "Come on," she snapped. "Eat." I forced the waffle into my mouth and chewed each bite regretfully. Finally, after eating one whole one, she let me go. My stomach made strange noises as I left the house, but I ignored it, hoping I won't barf at school today. My intentions were to avoid everybody in the morning, and hopefully, the bags and the eye puffiness would fade. I knew the real separation between me and my wolf was beginning, but I refused to acknowledge it anymore. I ducked my head low when I heard somebody calling my name and hurriedly walked off to my first class, not watching where I was going, and bumped into something hard. The person dropped his books everywhere, and I immediately began to apologize. This is the second time this week, I thought. Suddenly, I felt a bit of a trigger inside of me, a bit of movement from my wolf. I looked up and saw Blade, his eyes just as red and puffy as mine's. "Emerald," he muttered. I forced my gaze away from his and walked away, heading to the direction of my classroom. I sat away from John that morning and pretended it was an accident. Lunch arrived too soon, and I found myself walking into the cafeteria feeling truly like the living dead. I saw that Lisa had invited Jace to sit with us and headed over there, slightly vomiting at the sight of food. My stomach began to hurt even more, and I thought it was because of the smells of food around me, but I knew it was those waffles coming back. I ignored it and went to sit by them. "Hey," I muttered. "Hey," said Lisa, "you okay?" "Yeah, just sleepy." "What up?" asked Jace. "Nothing much, you?" "Same." "Why didn't you sit next to me at math?" asked John. I had to suffer the wild imagination of drama Evan. I forced a smile. "Sorry, it was an accident." "Are we still on after school?" asked Jace. "Yep, 3 o'clock." "Are you sure you're okay, though? We can make it some other time if you want." No, it's fine. I'm fine. We can do it today." I felt a heated gaze upon me and looked up to be met with Blade's intense glare. Expect it wasn't pointed on me, it was pointed right at Jace. His eyes darted to look at mine, and their anger told me he heard what we just said. "Don't," he mouthed. "Don't what? Don't anger his wolf? Or don't anger him?" I looked away and went back to talking to Jace. Suddenly, I felt my stomach exploding in pain. My hurt must have mirrored my expression because Jace grew a concerned look. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." "No, you're not, Em. Your face is green." I couldn't sit still anymore. I darted up and ran out of the cafeteria, running towards the washroom that seemed to have moved 10 miles further. Blade's Pav. As soon as she darted up, so did I, and I ran after her, my thoughts being none other than concerned about her. I saw Jace also follow her and was determined to beat him, but I couldn't. Not when all my power and energy was draining out of me like water. He reached the bathroom first and was about to go in there when I pulled him back. "Go back!" I barked at him. "I'll handle this." "What are you talking about? She's sick. I need to see her." He snapped, standing up at full height, challenging my authority. "You don't know her. It's my responsibility to take care of her. Now go back." "No, I need to help her. She won't want you inside of there. You're an enemy." "Now stop wasting my time. Why don't you be useful and get her some Advil from the nurse?" He sighed. "Tell her I'll be right back." I opened the washroom door and caught sight of her puking her guts out at one of the toilets. I ran to hold her hair away from her face, angling her body so she wouldn't hurt herself on the rim. "What the hell did you eat?" I asked when she was done. "Waffles," she croaked out. I cleaned her mouth with some napkins and tied her hair up with an elastic that was on her wrist. "Thanks," she muttered. "I still hate your freaking guts." "I'd say I hate your guts too, but I think you puked them all out." She smacked my chest and laid her head against it. I sighed. I shouldn't be doing this. This wasn't part of the plan. But as soon as Jace arrived, I shoved her off and helped her stand up. "Hey," said Jace. She cracked him a smile that sent vibes of anger through me. "Hey," she said, "you okay?" "Does she look okay?" I snapped, stepping forward. "Stop," she snapped at me. She took the Advil from Jace's hands and swallowed them. "Thank you," she said to him. "No problem. What did you eat?" "Some bad waffles." "You should to home," I said to her. "Yeah," said Jace, annoying me again. "We can reschedule our plans." Reschedule them to never, I thought furiously. What was she thinking hanging out with him? "Yeah, sorry, Jace," she said. "No problem." "I'll drive you," I said. "I can drive myself," she snapped. "No, you can't." "I can drive her," said Jace. "I got it," I snapped. "You should head to class." We entered the parking lot. "I can drive myself." "I'm fine," snapped Emerald. "No, you're not." "Fine, but I want Jace to drive me," she said. I looked at her, my gaze filled with pain, no doubt. She wanted him? Some loser guy she just met? My hate from him drizzled through my body like hot gasoline. "What?" I muttered. "You heard me. I want Jace to drive me." "Fine," I muttered. I watched as she got into his car. He bid me a friendly goodbye and then drove away, unaware of my urge to bury him alive. My pain and anger collided, and my hands began to shake. My fist swept past too fast for my vision to capture and connected to the wall beside me. Blood pooled around me in about 2 seconds. I sighed and looked at my damaged fist, then headed to my car. M's Pav. Jace stopped right by my house, smiling lightly as an attempt to lighten the tense atmosphere. "Sorry," I began, "for what happened today. You really didn't have to miss lunch to get me some pills." "It's cool. The important thing is that you're okay. Thanks for the ride. I probably made you miss next period." "A break from Mr. Jeff? I should be thanking you." I laughed. "No problem then. Can I ask you something?" "Yeah," I muttered nervously, already knowing what the question will be. The tensing of the atmosphere became as noticeable as it grew thicker. Why was Blade Russell so concerned for you? Isn't he an enemy? It's complicated. He smiled. It's all right if you'd rather not talk about it. I was just curious. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks. No problem. So do you want to meet tomorrow at the school's main entrance? At 3? Will you be all right? Probably. Are you sure? Yeah, there's no need to worry. I'll just get tons of sleep tonight and try to get rid of the ugly bags underneath my eyes. I look gross. Make sure to eat waffles that aren't expired, okay? I laughed as I exited the car. I'll try. See ya tomorrow. See ya, I replied, turning to leave until his voice stopped me. Oh, by the way, he said, I think you're pretty even with all those bags. He drove off, leaving me standing there, blushing like an idiot. I headed inside a minute later to the realization that no one was home. I ran upstairs, feeling a bit dizzy afterwards, and stumbled into my room. Ding! I checked my phone to see a text from Jared. Hey, what happened? Are you okay? Feeling too tired to answer, I threw the phone at my dresser and fell face first into my bed. After a restless night of sleep, filled with nightmares and frightening images, I welcomed the new day with screaming. What's going on? Dad yelled, running into my room. I awoke, jolted by his screaming. Sorry, Dad, I muttered tiredly. Just another nightmare. He sighed and exited the room. I wouldn't blame him for being so annoyed. I'd no doubt woke them up 3 times while sleeping. I stood up only to collapse on the bed again. After my bathroom routine and getting dressed, I exited the house, careful with avoiding Mom and Dad, but at the last minute, Mom shouted from upstairs, Emerald? Eat your damn breakfast. I sighed and yelled back, Okay. I headed to the kitchen and picked up my plate full of eggs and bacon. I resumed on to throw it in the garbage as if I had eaten it and left. I was expecting to walk to school, considering Jace drove me home yesterday and my car was still at school, but I was surprised to see it right there. Jace must have brought it back. I smiled gratefully. At school, I ran into the washroom before anyone had a chance to see me. I caught Blade's concerned eyes on the way and acted as if I hadn't seen him. In the washroom, I took out my makeup bag and attempted to cover up my purple bags and redness. I only succeed in covering less than half. I caught sight of Jasmine watching me from the mirror and turned to face her. Can I help you with something? I snapped. Help yourself first, she sneered and left. Ugh, I growled under my breath and resumed. Lunch arrived slowly after that, and I walked into the cafeteria only to be faced with Jared. Where were you yesterday during drama? He snapped. I went home. Why? Lisa just said you ran out of the caf yesterday? Are you okay? Yeah, just had some bad waffles, I muttered, eager to get away. It's fine. You drove yourself? While sick? I rolled my eyes. No, Dad. Jace drove me. I was about to leave when he grabbed my arm. Who the hell is Jace? I sighed. My friend. I shoved his hands away, covering my arm quickly, hoping a bruise hadn't formed. Like the new pack member Jace? Yeah, I snapped. Problem? Yes, I don't think he's a good influence, Em. Stay out of my personal life, Jared. At least introduce me to him, he said. Right after you put your girlfriend on a leash, I snapped and walked off. Lunch went by slowly. Blade didn't seem to be anywhere around, not that I checked every 5 seconds. I forced my curiosity away and pretended to take relief in his hardly noticeable absence. Hardly noticeable my butt, I thought, and grumpily munched on my turkey sandwich, forcing myself to enjoy it. After school, I threw everything into my locker and took out the list of fun things in this town. I read it over quickly and grabbed my phone before heading towards the school's main entrance. When I got there, I saw Blade, who just happened to be standing right where Jace and I will meet. I rolled my eyes when I saw that he was pretending to talk on the phone and sat at the bench. I couldn't help the constant peeks I'd take when he wouldn't be looking. He looked different, tired, like he hadn't slept in days. Like me. I looked away quickly when he turned and pretended to be occupied with the black screen on my phone. I saw him smirk teasingly from the corner of my eyes. Jace arrived 5 minutes later, smiling brightly. Hey, sorry I'm late. Got lost in the halls again. I laughed. It's fine. Ready to go? Yup, let's roll. We walked past Blade and Jace, being the over-friendly person he is, smiled and said, Hey, man. Blade rolled his eyes, growling lowly under his breath, and stomped away. Jace's smile faded. I get the feeling he doesn't like me. He doesn't like anybody, I said. We got into his car and he started the engine. I forgot to thank you for bringing my car yesterday. That wasn't me. What? I muttered. I didn't bring it. I went home. Oh, must have been Lisa or John. Where to first? First thing on my list is downtown. I gave him direction to downtown and from there showed him the mall, the movie theaters, and some coffee shops that I liked. We then headed to the second mall located near some park, and I showed him all the beaches and rivers. We drove around town for about 2 hours until he said, "Can I show you something now?" Sure. It's a place near my house. It's amazing. We reached his house 10 minutes later, and he parked the car. From here we walk. He led me behind his house and into the forest. Is this the part where you murder me? I asked. He laughed. We reached a swamp about 5 minutes of walking later. I gasped at the sight. It smelled freshly like oranges and cherries. The swamp was a reflective green color with a million swans everywhere. There were cherry blossom trees that surrounded the swamp in all gracefulness. I discovered this place while I was out for a run, Jace said. It's so pretty. I have a boat. Seriously. Yup, come on. He led me to his small wooden boat and let me go first. I almost fell off, screaming lightly before he grabbed my arm and steadied me. I got you. I smiled. Thanks. He got in afterwards and sat down. He began to row the boat slowly, leading us deeper into the swamp. I noticed a small waterfall later on. The swans moved out of the way, letting us pass. I looked up to see that the sky was covered with branches and trees. I couldn't see a glimpse of blue. I want to show you something I like to do. He stopped the boat in the middle of the swamp and laid on his back. What are you doing? I laughed. Try it. I did as he did and laid beside him on my back. Now listen to all the noises. Close your eyes and imagine a perfect world. I watched as he closed his eyes and held a faint smile on his face. I turned to look at the sky. I wondered what he was thinking about. Probably his dead parents and mate and what it would be like to have them back. What's a perfect wood for me? I closed my eyes and listened to the waterfall. I thought I'd imagine clouds and blue skies and maybe Jared and I kissing in the rain, or maybe me and everybody I love living happily with no worries. I thought I'd see a clear river that I floated on until the end, where I was welcomed by Jared's wide arms, inviting me home with his warm embrace. But I didn't see any of those things. Instead, I saw Blade. The everlasting swoon of my heart was in a continuous thundering as he grew closer. I saw the shapes of his features, each one constructed with a bit more engrossment than others. I saw his full, gentle lips that made my breath escape. They parted as slowly as the opposite speed of my heart. My body swam into his two tawny seas, and there it floated in escape of reality. His eyes that I fell in love with held me hostage. In my mind, I traced the edge of his cheekbones, trailing my finger down to his jawline. I let my head lay on his chest, feeling the continuous beating of his heart. Was it strange that it sounded like a song to me? A tuneful poem in beautiful harmony? His beauty spoke words as sharp as knives to me. His seemingly innocent face transformed into a wolf's, an angry, sick, revenge-seeking beast that wanted my head on a stick. I saw myself. My mouth was wide open in a gap, screaming a blood-curdling sound, with my eyes as terrified as seeing a monster in front of me. And it was a monster, nonetheless. The beast that had possessed my mate snarled loudly, bearing his iceberg-sharp fangs that thirsted for my blood. I didn't feel terrified, though. I just looked terrified. I felt like a mirror, witnessing everything that's happening, even my own reflection. But I didn't feel any emotions. Blade's golden eyes transformed into a fiery amber, similar to the color of ashes. Although they still held their beauty, the innocence was gone, leaving behind thick traces of anger and insanity. It was still inviting, but in a wrong, dangerous way that terrified and excited me at the same time. I saw myself shiver in lust and fear. As Jace drove me to get my car that night, images of the Blade I imagined flickered in my vision. His snarling lips, those claw-bared teeth, and that evil look in his eyes. It reminded me of a dream I had a couple of nights ago. You okay? Jace would ask. Yup, I'd always say. The next day was Saturday, and I awoke to loud noises and shouting. Ugh! I screamed into my pillow. I got up, wobbly on my feet, and headed towards my washroom, scrubbing my face as an attempt to get rid of the throbbing bags. "Emerald," Mom screamed from downstairs. "Wake up!" "I'm awake," I croaked. "Then get dressed. There's an emergency pack meeting." "Perfect," I mumbled, brushing my teeth. I got dressed in anything clean and stumbled downstairs. The ride to the pack house was long and slow, and finally, I escaped the constant air of that miserable car and unleashed into freshness. "You seem a bit weird today, Em," said Mom. "'Cause I got throbbing bags and red eyes?" I snapped. We made our way inside of the already full pack house, and I noticed it had more people than usual, at least double. "What's going on?" I asked Dad. He shrugged. "I don't know. I think it's both packs." We headed to the meeting room where people stood by the stage because there were no more chairs left. We went to look for a spot when the meeting began. On the stage stood both alphas, Jared's dad and Blade. I took a long intake of breath and focused on listening to their talking rather than staring at his face. I found myself dozing off and just staring at him. Suddenly, I heard sounds of gasps and saw jaws dropping. "It's unfortunate, but very necessary," Jared's father was saying. "This partnership I've developed with this pack consists of nothing but safety importance and more information." So he finally decided to tell them he's been betraying them behind their backs, I thought. "Rouges are coming in either small groups or alone. They never come in packs," said Blade, taking over. "Their wolves are usually a dirty brown color, and their eyes always turn red when they shift. They've been coming in more recently now. We've already had 2 attacks reported since last week. Both victims were injured. Nothing too bad, but the Rouges managed to escape. They are coming in weakest first. They're saving their best fighters for last, so the longer it takes to find their leader, the more dangerous it gets. For now, we suggest you don't leave the area," said Jared's father. "Don't take runs too deep into the woods, especially when you're alone. Don't hang out around property lines. That's where they're coming from." Somebody from the crowd raised their hand. "Yes?" asked Blade. "How do we know who is a Rouge if they're in their human form?" asked a tall, thin guy with wobbly glasses. "That's the hard part. There is no way to tell a Rouge in human form. Look for any claw marks around the arms. Not all the Rouges have them, but some do. Also, if they're not from Silver Reflections Pack or mines, they must be reported to either Alpha immediately. For now, we are not accepting any new members to either pack because Rouges have been known to join packs as spies." I followed Blade's intense gaze and traced it right back to where Jace was standing. I rolled my eyes. Of course, he thinks Jace is a Rouge. I raised my arm and took small pleasure when I saw Blade's eyes widen in surprise. "Yes?" he said, swallowing. "In the back." I felt a jolt to my chest at his words. He talks like he doesn't even know me, like we never made out on my bed or ran for hours in the night. "How do we protect ourselves when we're alone and a Rouge attack?" Blade swallowed again, and I shook away the image of the old Blade, smiling at me and telling me I won't be alone because he'll be there to protect me. Instead, he said, "Never go for the obvious. They've been trained for that. The only tip I can give you is to never be alone." "I don't have a choice now, do I?" my eyes told him as they dug into his. He stared at me for a bit longer before moving on to the next question. About an hour later, the meeting was over, and I wobbled to where Mom and Dad were standing, talking to Jared's father. Suddenly, I heard whispering from besides me. I turned to find Blade by the washroom, ushering me in. "What?" I mouthed. "Come," he mouthed back. I sighed but obeyed. He shut the washroom door behind me and locked it. "What do you want, Blade?" I snapped, trying not to share at the bags under his eyes too much. It melted me, just knowing his energy is draining out of his this fast. "Take this." He shoved something cold into my hands. I examined the bottle that read pepper spray and laughed. "Really?" "It's better than a dagger and a bit less suspicious," he said. I handed it back to him. "No, thank you." He grabbed my arm. "Emerald, take it." "It's not your job to worry about me anymore," I said with a forced smirk. I left the washroom with my eyes closed as an attempt to push back my tears. "Hey," Jace said as soon as I left. "Hey," I replied, Blade's pav. "It's not your job to worry about me anymore," she said with a smirk that sent jolts of electrifying pain through my body. The way she said, so carelessly like she truly did grow to hate me, it burned me deep. I was left silenced by that comment and managed to barely slip the pepper bottle into her bag as she walked out. I watched as Jace met with her and attempted to drain my anger. I was way too tired for that, and all my energy was drained. Emerald looked just as bad, with her eyes as red as tomatoes, and those purple bags under her eyes looked like elephants. It hurt me in strange ways to see her suffer because of me and a cruel fate. Sure, I've done some bad things in my life, but nothing worthy of a punishment this agonizing. Her pain hurt me even more. To watch my mate suffer was equivalent to ripping out my organs and tearing them to shreds. I felt hopeless, like I was stuck in a room that had no doors or windows. There is no solution to end it all. I knew now that the rouges are coming, I'd have to really get her to hate me so she wouldn't try and protect me. But how can I be capable of such a thing when I wanted nothing more but to keep her close and be her protector? She has the pepper spray. I tried to calm myself down, and as much as I hated to admit it, Jace seemed like he would protect her. But every time I think of him, I can't help but get this small little urge to beat him dead. It's suspicious to me that he joined the pack when the rouge attacks were beginning with no relatives or friends whatsoever. He didn't join my pack, so I really had no say in it, but I'd still have to keep an eye out for M. He might be dangerous. Emerald's Pav. After the meeting, Jared's father invited my dad to his house. "I need to discuss some matters with you," he had said. "Yeah, no problem, man," Dad responded. "This will be a private meeting, meaning nothing that goes in goes out." My father nodded, looking gradually serious. "Blade Russell will be there too. We need as much information as we can get." That caught my attention, and I whipped my head to stare at Jared's father. He caught my eye and looked away, proceeding his intense conversation with my dad. We drove to his house afterwards, and I noticed it was already 6 o'clock. I tried to distract myself from the obvious fact that Blade was driving right behind us. My eye slipped past my intentions and flickered towards the mirror where I caught Blade's eyes. I looked away fast enough to give myself a whiplash, blushing madly like a red pepper. I caught the strange looks my mom was giving me inside. "Puberty," I muttered as if to explain everything. "Honey, that was 7 years ago," she said. I didn't respond, partly because she was right, but mainly because I simply didn't have the energy. When we reached Jared's house, we all stepped out of the car, and I noticed Jared and Jasmine had beat us there, and now were straightening their strangely crumbled clothing. I rolled my eyes when I saw Jasmine's smudged lipstick. It still annoys me. Blade stepped out of his car afterwards, followed by his second-in-command. I immediately noticed the atmosphere growing tenser as he strode closer. I looked away from his slow, sensual strides and focused on keeping the blush off my face. Jared's father showed everyone inside into his meeting room. "Kids," he said to Jameen, Jared, and I, "can you leave us to discuss?" "Oh, come on," I began to protest when Jared interrupted me. Of course, he grabbed my hand and began to lead me out of the room. "Wait, Blade is 18, so am I snapped. "Emerald," Mom snapped. "Lower your voice, he's an alpha." "Oh yeah," I thought. She didn't know how close he and I are. "Sorry," I muttered to make up for my outburst. "It's fine," Blade said, his lips twitching in amusement. "Ah, hole," I muttered. Jared led me and Jasmine to the kitchen, where he took a seat at one of the chairs along with his mate. After about 10 minutes of sitting around doing nothing, I groaned out loud in agony. "This is so boring." "We have to stay here and let them discuss," said Jared. "Wow, she really changed you, huh?" The old Jared would be there by the door eavesdropping. "We have to respect their privacy," said Jasmine. I rolled my eyes. "I'm going to go pee." "Have fun," said Jared. "I will," I reported. I passed by the washroom and went into the office. I grabbed a glass cup sitting on the table and spilled the content into some plant. I held the cup onto the wall and placed my ear on top. "As you probably know, my second-in-command has been injured from a rouge attack," Jared's dad was saying. "Yeah, I heard 2 days ago, right?" said Dad. "Yes, and Harold, I want you to be my new second-in-command." "What about Richard?" "He's retiring, he can't." "All right, I'll take it." I pulled back, shocked that my dad is the new second-in-command. I couldn't decide if this made things worse or better for me and Blade. Worse, I finally decided. Worse because Dad will be more committed, and the last thing he needs is his only daughter betraying his pack. I placed my ear back on the cup and listened. Blade, as you already know, we need to share information with each other. That's the only way our packs can survive. I'm aware, replied Blade. Just his voice sends shivers into my body. But I've shared a lot with you, with no returns. I need something back. That is fair. What would you like? Files of all the rouges that attacked in the past 10 years. Names, history, everything. How about past 5 years? 10 is a bit too much, said Jared's dad. We need all the information. That's the only way we can track it down to the leader. We can't give you 10, we have 5, said my dad. How about 5 years of information and updates for the next year? There was a pause and finally Blade said, We'll take it. Now for that information, said my dad. Suddenly I heard the door open. I stumbled up, almost dropping the cup, and saw Jared. What are you doing? He asked. I thought this was the washroom, I said, placing the cup on the table. You've been here 1 billion times, he said. Sorry, forgot. I walked past him back into the kitchen, only to have him follow. So what did they say? He asked. I don't know what you're talking about. Where's that little maid of yours? She's in the washroom and obviously you were eavesdropping. I know you, Im. You always do things like this. I let out a sigh. My dad is the new second and Blade is exchanging info with them. That's it. Your dad is the new second. Yeah. Won't that make it worse for when you tell him about your mate? I know. Don't complicate it. And what's going on? Does he not want you? Because you look like hell, and that only happens when your mate doesn't want you. Why would you think that? I snapped. That he doesn't want me? It's just complicated. It's not easy having an enemy mate who you'd be a traitor to be with. I know, Em, but you've got to tell your parents and you've got to be with him. Otherwise, you'll lose your wolf. Too late, I muttered. I knocked the door to the meeting room an hour later. Come in, said a voice. I opened the door, guiding my eyes ahead of time I wouldn't look at Blade. Mom, Dad, can I go home? Because you guys are probably going to stay late. You can stay with Jared today if you want, said Jared's dad. I noticed Blade stiffing. Nah, I want to go home. I have homework. Ask Jared to drive you. Don't go alone. Okay, I said and left. I went outside looking for Jared when I caught him making out with Jasmine by the garage doors. No way I'm going near that, I thought and decided to walk. It wasn't that late, only about 8, but it was already really dark. I was already engrossed in my thoughts as I began the thrifty minute walk home. I honestly didn't know what fate had against me. It seemed like when I wanted Blade around, he was nowhere to be seen. But when I ducked and bruised to avoid him, he was everywhere. Why is he too confusing? The pain from his outbursts still ran like fresh blood through my veins, and as much as I pretend it never happened, it still stung. It was like a scar that needed stitching, and the longer I let it be, the more it bleeds and stretches wider. It was easy to acknowledge the pain from the whole Jared thing because it wasn't as intense. The relationship I had with Jared consisted of nothing but friendship, and we mistook it for something else. We loved each other, more than family, but we weren't in love with each other. So when I found out he wasn't my mate, it was like losing my beset's friend or a family member. But with Blade, it was more. It wasn't friendship because it didn't consist of that. I wanted Blade. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and in every single way possible. Knowing that I can't be his, it opened up a whole new kind of pain. The one that numbs you, but sometimes when you're alone, the numbness fades a bit and you can feel the sting, the throbbing in your heart and the dry stream of tears that wanted to burst. But into what? I had no tears to cry, so what could it possibly burst into? The nightmares were proof of the pain, and I wasn't ignoring it. I was dreading it. I wanted to cry, just to prove to myself that I still could, but I couldn't. I let out a sigh when I noticed I was stressing again. The last thing I need is more gray hair. Suddenly, I heard a sound coming from behind me. I quickly turned, noticing I was in an alley now. I looked around, feeling frightened now that I was focused on my surroundings. My eyes darted from side to side, looking for anything suspenseful, but all I saw was darkness. I decided to keep walking, speeding up my pace and paying a bit more attention to my surroundings now. A new sound interrupted the subtle silence, causing my heart to speed up in fear. It was a loud sound. I couldn't identify it, but it was loud and in a hurry. I was practically jogging now, eager to escape this endless alley. I felt something touching my feet and screamed loudly, shuffling to the side and flinging my purse side to side. Ah! I screamed bloody murder. I managed to grasp my flashlight keychain and flash it near my feet. I let out a frustrated sigh when I saw a rat nibbling on some garbage. "Are you serious?" I snapped. "Stupid rat." I was about to place the keychain back into my purse when I heard it. A loud, threatening growl erupted through the night, paralyzing my body and freezing every blood cell inside. I didn't have time to register the moment before something dirty brown flashed past my vision. A second later, I was struck with something heavy that sent me flying into the ground. Red eyes blocked my vision, followed by hungry, jagged teeth on dirty brown gums. I screamed into the night, well aware of the deserted area and that nobody will hear me. I felt claws digging into my legs while I struggled in agony, trying my hardest to block the strikes. The wolf bit into my leg, and I grabbed onto his fur as an attempt to hurt it. It didn't work, and I felt my bones collapse as he struck his paw down on my foot. I managed to get one hand free and reached for my purse that was about 2 feet away. I tried to grab it, but only managed to slightly touch it. I screamed louder as the rouge bit into my thighs. I closed my eyes when I saw my flesh in his teeth and tried harder to grab my purse. I managed to wrap my finger around a loose string and pulled it close, searching with one hand for something to use. I got out my keychain and threw it at him, but it was like throwing a leaf. I dug deeper and grabbed something metal. I pulled it out and noticed that it was the pepper spray I rejected from Blade. How did this get here? I didn't think as I clasped my fingers down and sprayed into the wolf's eyes. It hurled itself off of me and growled in pain, giving me a spare second or two to drag myself away. But that wasn't good enough. He recovered a minute later, and now he was angry. He pointed his red eyes right at my chest as he leaped into the air, and just when I thought he'd land on me, it didn't happen. I opened my eyes only to find 2 wolves now. The second one blended in with the blackness in the sky. I didn't take a second to think before beginning to crawl away, slipping in the trail of my blood. After a few feet, I couldn't move anymore. I felt my body surrender and give in to the tiredness. I knew I was going to pass out, but if I let myself bleed more, I'd probably die. I ripped off a piece of my shirt, cursing myself for choosing such thick material, and wrapped it tightly around my leg. My bones all fell asleep, and even breathing hurt now. I let my eyes droop, my last sight being of the black wolf tearing the head off of the rouge. My eyes opened slowly and immediately shut as they adjusted to new light. I opened them up a minute later, squinting in the brightness. Flashbacks of the rouge flickered into my mind, giving me a headache. I remembered the black wolf, my savior. It had to be Blade. I've never seen a wolf that dark, other than him. I looked around my surroundings and noticed I was in his room. I looked down at my body and noticed that I was wearing a short-sleeved shirt that went up to my thighs. My eyes widened and my hands went to feel my breasts and abdomen. I sighed in relief when I realized I was wearing both a bra and underwear. I tried to lift up my leg, which was almost impossible, and saw the wide pieces of cloth wrapped around. There was a bucket of blood and cloth on a table besides my face. "Lovely," I muttered. The room door opened and Blade stepped in, carrying more material and a new bucket. "You're awake," he said. "Yeah," I muttered. "So you're my savior, of course." "Were you expecting someone else?" He placed the new bucket on the table. "No, not really. But thanks. If you hadn't shown up, I would have probably died." "Not probably, certainly," he said. "Oh, please, I had it all under control," I joked to lighten the mood. He didn't respond. He dipped the new cloth in the bucket and unwrapped my wounds. Afterwards, he began to clean them, making me squirm in pain. "Am I hurting you?" he said after 5 minutes. "No, I love it," I muttered sarcastically. "Even when you've just been attacked by a rouge who almost killed you, you still have your humor." "Gotta lighten the mood somehow," I said. "What time is it?" "About 1:40, 5 a.m. "Great, my parents are going to kill me." He continued to clean out my wounds, rewrapping them. I found myself staring at his face as he worked on my injuries. I noticed that his forehead squints when he focuses strongly, and he bites his lips a lot. "Stop staring at me. You're distracting me," he said after a while. "Sorry, but there isn't exactly anything entertaining to while you clean my wounds. Count to 100 or something. I'm not 5. As the minutes went by, I became more and more aware of our position. I was wearing his baggy shirts with nothing but a bra and underwear beneath while he worked on my fully exposed leg. I blushed and muttered, "Did you change me?" "I could tell that question has been bothering you for a while," he smirked. "But yeah, I did." "Was it a rouge that attacked me?" He had red eyes, and I think his fur was brown. "Yeah, it was a rouge." "Did you kill him?" "Yep, thanks for the pepper spray. Thank God you snuck it into my purse. I reloaded, by the way. I gave you 5 more. "Thanks, so how bad is it?" "Not that bad. When our wolves connected, it began to heal. You lost a lot of blood, and thank God you wrapped your leg otherwise." He let it trail, but we both know what he meant. He stood up and cleaned his hands slowly, and I finally grew the confidence to ask him the main question. "How did you know?" He paused his work and looked at me. "I don't know. Right when your parents told you to ask Jared to drive you home, I knew you wouldn't because I saw them kissing through the window. And they kept kissing after 10 minutes, so I knew you left alone. I had a bad feeling that something would happen, so I excused myself and left my second to take charge. I looked for you, and then I felt your fear. I kept running around. I tried to shift, but my wolf was too far gone. And then I heard you scream. I ran and followed the noise, and I saw you being attacked. Suddenly, I could feel my wolf, and he was stronger than 50 other wolves put together. I attacked the rouge, and after I killed him, I carried you home. You know the rest. I thought you said you didn't care about me." He turned so that his golden eyes dug into mine. "Doesn't mean I don't." "Then why?" I choked out. "Why make me think you hated me, and it was all a lie, all for revenge?" "Revenge? What are you talking about?" he asked. "I thought you led me on and then left me as revenge because I didn't help you shift." "It's not that." "Then why? Why break everything I've made of myself into tiny little pieces and then step on them? Is that your sick definition of a joke or something?" "I did it to keep you safe." "How?" I snapped, standing up. "How?" "Sit down. Not until you answer me." "It's complicated, Emerald." I sighed and took a seat. "You never tell me anything. Everything is always complicated. I'm so sick of it. You're like a big box of secrets with the biggest lock, and there's no key." "Then don't deal with it. Does it look like I have a choice?" I burst out loud. "If I could have it my way, I know. You'd want your mate to be someone like Jared or that damn Jace. What brought him into this? You did. He was never a part of our lives, and suddenly you go and become his best friend? I showed him around town. That's it. You went and dated the biggest tramp in school." We were now face to face as he snapped his words. "Do you know how much it's killing me? I don't want to do this again, where I have to watch you with some damn guy. Now you know how I feel. With Tracy and Diana and Stacy and all those other tramps." "I'm sorry," he burst out, grabbing my face, placing my forehead to his. "I'm sorry, I can't find a solution to all of this. Either way, we're going to come out either traitors or dead, so what's the point anyway?" I shut my eyes, unable to bear with reality any longer, and felt Blade's moist lips touch mine as gently as leaves. It took one little peck for my wolf to stir alive, and now I wanted more. His lips. I felt them nearing like little drops of rain that trickled too slowly for you to determine whether you'll need a cover or not. Will I need a cover? Will I need strength to resist? Do I even want to resist? His eyes were shut like he was trying to resist. The need eventually overcame both of us, though. With hunger and compulsion both speeding through, or veins like thousands of blood cells, we shattered every wall separating us from connecting in any way and touched. Simply touched, his lips touching mine. A small action capable of such explosions. It felt like years rather than a couple of weeks without this sort of pleasure. Now that I'm experiencing it, I felt like I'd be insane if I wasn't always like this. In the same position, during the same time, at the same place. He was moving slowly, too slowly for my dictating hunger, but I was reacting just as slow. I realized we feared hurting each other or hurting this moment. We've been left too long without these feelings, like a human left day without water. We were too frightened to go any faster because the moment might shatter. It seemed too good to be true. My grasp on him was too firm, not gentle at all. I was sure I'd leave bruises, but somehow I didn't care. He didn't seem to mind either. Blade's pav. I woke up about an hour later and watched Emerald as she slept. I smiled when I noticed a bit of drool. What wouldn't I do for this beauty that's stolen my heart and my brain? I remembered the pain I felt and madness when I realized she was in danger. It was as if my thoughts weren't mine anymore, but instead they belonged to a bloodthirsty monster. I wanted nothing more than to torture that rouge, and still I think killing him was letting him off too easily. It was strange, really, how my wolf just appeared when I saw Emerald. I grew new power, energy, and the strength of 50 wolves. I stared at Emerald's beautiful face as she slept peacefully and finally decided to stay close to her now, because she needs my protecting more than ever. And if I die while saving her life, at least I'll die happy, because I know she'll be safe. I'd never let myself die if I still knew she was in danger. I chuckled. I didn't give a damn about myself, did I? All that matters is that she's safe. I traced her eyes, brown to her jawline, and then her lips. I gave her one more peck and fell asleep, tangling my arms around her. M's pav. I woke up feeling like I died and gone to heaven. Blade's face was the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes, and I was immediately happy. I realized that this was the first night in weeks that I haven't had a nightmare. I looked at the time that read 10 p.m. I quickly jumped out of bed and ran into the washroom. "What?" asked Blade. "I gotta go home." "But it's only 10. Where are my clothes?" "I found them already washed under the sink and put them on." "Come on, let's go." He drove me home in nothing but his pajamas. He stopped over near my house and took my fingers out of my mouth. "Stop nibbling on your nails. You're gonna lose a whole finger, I swear." "I'm scared." "Don't be. Just say you were attacked." "All right, see ya?" I was about to close the door when he pulled me in and kissed me. "Bye-bye." He winked and drove away. I rolled my eyes and walked towards my house. I noticed a strange car in the garage. I opened the door, ready to find Mom and Dad both standing there with chainsaws, but what I saw was worse. Mom was sitting on the ground, mouth wide open, her eyes terrified as she stared into the face of Diana, Blade's ex-girlfriend. The moment my foot hit the hard ground of our living room, hundreds of thousands of thoughts were pulsing through me faster than the speed of light. It wasn't so much that Diana was there, as much as it was the expression on my mom's face. She was shocked. That was the only way to relate it. She was shocked to the point of fear, and she looked terrified, as if her world was crashing down. "What's going on?" I managed to choke out, "What are you doing here?" Diana stood up and smiled gently at me. "I better go." "Wait," I snapped as she tried to walk around me. "What did you tell her?" But she managed to step around me and exit the house, slamming the door hurriedly behind her. My legs planted to the floor beneath me, and I found myself stable, unable to move. "Mom." "Where were you?" she asked, her voice surprisingly calm. I was attacked on my way home last night. A friend took me home and fixed me up." "A friend, huh? The same friend you stayed with for a whole day at the hospital without telling us?" The same friend you go see at night when you're supposed to be asleep?" "Mom, what did Diana tell you?" "So you know her? Your friend and her were really close." "Mom, please," I begged. "Just spit it out. There was never an alcohol addiction, was there?" "Why would you say that?" "Because now I know the truth, Emerald, and I understand why you had to lie." Tears began to blur my vision. I'm sorry. I tried to ignore fate. I tried to walk away, but I couldn't. Not if I wanted to keep my wolf. "You know, it explains so much. Why Blade Russell was so protective of you that day you fainted. Why he saved you from that rouge that attacked you at school. Why you've been so tired lately and so unhealthy looking, and why you sneak out at night." I looked away from her disappointed green eyes. I couldn't bear the sadness in them. "Most of all, it explains why Blade left the meeting last night only 10 minutes after you left. He left to make sure you get home safely. Who else knows your mate is an enemy?" "Jason," I said. "He found out. That's why you guys haven't been talking to each other." Yes, I said, unable to speak any longer. Who else knows? Jared and Lisa. And Diana, she said. Yes. I'm not mad at you, Emerald. She stirred to that she can look at me. It's not your fault. You can't help it. That's not what Jason thinks. That's not important right now. We have to make sure your father doesn't find out. He's second in command now, meaning if this goes out, it will kill him. Not only will he be suspended from his position, but the whole family will be kicked out of the pack. What do I do? I asked. Stay away from Blade. My eyes widened. But Mom, I can't. I'll lose my wolf. It has to be done, Emerald. What happens when I start looking like a zombie? I snapped. If he asks, we'll make up something about you being sick or something. So we lie? Isn't the whole point of this conversation to stop me from lying to you? She turned her icy stare and directed it into my soul. Would you rather be shunned by the whole pack and be referred to as a traitor? When I didn't say anything, she snapped, I didn't think so, and walked away. School arrived the next day, and I drove to school, with my energy draining out of me. My thoughts were still consumed by my mother's tough words, but she reacted better than I thought she would. She said herself that she doesn't blame me, and that's all that really matters. She must have known I couldn't possibly stay away from him. I'll lose my wolf and all my energy. It seemed like everybody who wants to keep me and Blade apart had different reasons. I reached school about 5 minutes later and exited my car. I remembered that my leg was still bruised from the attack and made sure to apply less weight on it. I headed into the school and saw Lisa and John by my locker. Hey guys, I said. Hey, you look better, said John. Thanks, I said, aware of Lisa's knowing eyes. Are you limping? She snapped. Nope, my leg is just numb, I lied. John rolled his eyes. You're such a bad liar. Anyways, are you coming to the party tonight? It's Monday, I said. So? Then on Tuesday, people will have something to talk about. What time? 7, I think. I don't know. Edward Riley's house, said Lisa. So he's from our pack, right? Yup, but he's inviting everyone, even enemies, since they invite us. So are you coming? Are you? I asked. Hell yeah, she laughed. Fine. By the way, why do we refer to the other pack as enemies? They haven't done anything to us, and now they're teaming up with our pack. Lisa and John glanced at each other. You're right, said John. I don't even know why people refer to them as enemies when now they're helping us. Lunch arrived after 2 periods, and I caught sight of Jace sitting at our table with John, Lisa, and Mark. Hey guys, I sat down. Hey, they all replied. Hey Mark, where's the clingy wife? What wife? He snapped, looking grumpy. Steve, I thought you guys were always together. Whatever, he snapped. What crawled up his butthole? I muttered, taking a bite out of my sandwich. Him and Steve had a fight, said Lisa. About what? Jace, who looked like he's been trying to stifle a giggle, began to laugh. Mark lost a bet to Steve and had to egg some old house that no one lives in. And I asked. Steve didn't know where it is, so he took the address from Mark. He went to that address and egged the whole place thinking it's empty, until Principal Ted came out. I burst out laughing, watching Steve's cheeks as they burned a bright red. Oh my God! I laughed. Yeah, Mark lied to him. Steve is suspended for a week starting tomorrow. Idiot, I laughed harder. I didn't know it was his house. Mark lied to me, snapped Steve. Now Steve won't talk to Mark because when the principal asked Mark, he said he told Steve not to do it. Mark is a little brat, I said, laughing. And do you know what bet he lost? Asked Jace. Know what? Who can swallow a hot dog the fastest? Swallow? Yup, that's gross. After school, I went home and finished my homework. I took a shower afterwards and checked the time. 6:01. I decided to get ready for the party. I got dressed in a silk black dress that came up to my mid-thigh. It wasn't too tight, but it shaped my body nicely. I matched it with some black flats and curled my hair quickly. After finishing my makeup, which consisted of some mascara and a lip gloss, I grabbed my purse and headed out. Where are you going? Asked my mom. To a party. Will Jared be there? Yes, and Lisa and Jack, I promise. Fine, no later than 12. Thank you. I ran to my car and began to drive to the party when I received a text. Hey, can you please pick me up? My car won't start. Jace. His house was only 10 minutes away from here, so I thought why not? Sure, I texted back and drove to his house. He was wearing nice black jeans and a dress shirt when I picked him up. His hair was messy in a way that was stylish, and he was freshly shaved. Looking good, I complimented, taking in his amazing cologne. Thanks, you too. He winked and got into the car. So, are you excited? I asked. Yeah, I've never been to a party in my whole life. Seriously? I asked. Well, do birthday parties when I was 9 count? No, I laughed. You seem nervous. A little. Don't worry, I'll make sure you have tons of fun. I trust you then, he said. I rolled up the windows when I got kind of cold. It's getting kind of chilly. Yeah, it's going to be windy tonight. Can you turn on the heater, please? I asked. Yeah, sure. He reached in to turn it on when his shirt got caught on the shaft. Oh, you okay? I asked. Yeah, my shirt is just stuck. Do you need help? I don't know, let me see. He yanked it a couple of times, but it only resulted in ripping the material a bit. Here, let me help. I pulled to the side and began to yank the material some more. Suddenly, a whole patch of his sleeve came off, revealing his forearm. I stared at it for a while, my eyes wide open in surprise. His forearms had about 20 long cuts going in all different directions. He went quiet for a moment, and I finally tore my gaze away. Sorry about your shirt. You're not stuck anymore, though. Thanks. We reached the party in silence and both exited the car, heading inside. The whole time, I wondered how he'd gotten those cuts. I know I heard something in the pack meeting about cuts on your forearm, but I couldn't remember what. Maybe he cuts himself. I thought, it's though losing both a mate and your parents. We went through the doors and past the already forming crowd to find Lisa and John by the snack tables. Hey guys, I called out. Hey, yelled Lisa, running up to give me a hug. You look so good. Thanks. You too. I saw Jace and John doing those man handshakes and turned to Lisa. Let's go dance. We headed into the crowd and began to dance, shouting lyrics from songs out loud. Gonna make a heartthrob out of me. Just a bit of minor surgery, Lisa sang out. These desperate times call for desperate measures, I sang back. I'll give you something to cry about. Show some skin and would be cash. John popped up and yelled, how could you let this get to desperate measures now? We all began to dance around, laughing and singing. I saw that Jace was having the best time of his life and smiled. Suddenly, my body stiffened, and I felt a strong presence enter the room. Blade. You okay? Said Lisa. Yup, just dancing, I yelled over the music. I looked through the crowd, trying to spot him, and caught him watching me from the balcony on the stairs. Come here, he mouthed. I'm gonna go get water, I said. I left the group and headed upstairs, following Blade into one of the rooms. He pulled me in and shut the door, trapping us both in nothing but darkness. The first thing I felt was his moist lips as his large hands gripped my waist, pulling me in harder. I knotted my fingers in his hair, deepening the kiss, arching my neck as he kissed my shoulders. I missed you, he said between kisses. I missed you too, I said. I don't think I could ever go one without this sort of pleasure. He pulled back and rested his forehead on mine's, breathing hard. Why would you wear this silk dress, he breathed roughly, and make me want you this much? You don't like it? I love it too much. That's the problem. I felt my phone buzzing in my purse and pulled it out to see a message from Lisa. I gotta go, I said, pulling my hand from his. I gave him one last peck before running downstairs. The aroma of cheap perfume and alcohol filled the entire house as I slipped through masses of sweating bodies as an attempt to get to Lisa, John, and Jace. I caught sight of a girl drinking from the no-doubted spiked lemonade and pitied her. The smirking guy watching her would no doubt try to take advantage of her tonight. Thank God I hadn't drank anything today, otherwise I'd be wobbling as much as her. I felt a pair of intense eyes on me like before and looked up to see a confused Blade. I thought about my quick escape after the kiss we shared. I had to get out of there, otherwise I wouldn't have stopped. I couldn't let myself get addicted to those soft pink lips. If I do, Mom would know something is up. I knew the kiss we shared, although was fast, it would also be the last kiss for a while. It hurt to even think that. I finally caught sight of Lisa and squeezed through the last couple of bodies until I reached them. Hey, where have you been? Said a drunk-looking Lisa. Just the washroom. John, did you let her drink anything? Just lemonade. I don't know why she's so wobbly. Don't let her drink anymore. Why? It's spiked. Emerald, said a voice. I looked to my side and saw Jace. Hey, are you having a good time? I tried to smile. Yeah, I am. Can I walk to you outside? Yeah, sure. He grabbed my hands and led me through the bodies again until we reached the backyard. What do you want to talk about? I asked. About the claw marks. It's okay, I said. You don't have to explain. No, I want to. It's not what you think. I got these when rouges attacked my pack. They killed my parents and my mate. I was trying to fight them off, but there were too many. They scratched my arms and really anywhere they were in contact with. You must have been so terrified. I was. I can't really remember how it felt, but all I remember seeing is a blur of colors and blood. I heard a lot of screaming. I don't understand how you're still healthy, look, and not sort of dead looking after your mate died. That's because my wolf shunned me. But I thought you lose your wolf when you lose your mate? No, you only lose your wolf if your mate is still alive, but you can't be with them. If your mate dies, your wolf can't die because he knows she or he is gone and there's nothing he can do. So he has to stay, but out of his depression, the wolf shuns his human. What do you mean by shun? I mean like never really talking to him. The human will barely be able to sense his wolf, and if the human wants to shift, it will be hard trying to get to his wolf. Sometimes it's impossible. So you keep your wolf? You just can't really sense him? Yup, it's like he really is dead, but he's not. Why does the wolf die if his mate is still alive? Shouldn't it be opposite? Shouldn't he die when his mate dies? When you have a mate but can't be with them, as long as they're still alive, the wolf knows he can't stop trying. So when the wolf slowly dies, he sucks out all the energy of the human he's in. That's why the human will have no other choice but to be with his mate. So as long as his mate is still alive, he'll keep trying. And this happened rarely, but if the human is resident enough, the wolf will die, and the human's soul will too, but not its body. But when the mate dies, the wolf doesn't die because what's the point of torturing his human if the mate is gone? There's nothing he can't do to bring his or her mate back, so he just lives the rest of his life in misery, and so does the human. So it's different when your mate dies than when they're alive, but you can't be with them. Yup, they both equal lots and lots of misery, though, forever. So you're forced to live like this forever? With really no wolf, no mate, no parents, and miserable forever. He shrugged and looked away. Everything happens for a reason, right? I guess so. So when are you going to tell me if you have a mate or not? You're 18, so you should. I smiled and decided since he shared so much with me, I might as well. I have a mate. He's very much alive, but I can't be with him. That explains a lot. Why can't you be with him? He's a pack enemy. If I do, his pack will either kick him out or kill him. Mines will kick out my whole family and label us as traitors so all the other packs wouldn't accept us, and any wolf that sees us has the permission to kill us. Your pack is harsh. You mean our pack, and that's because they have a history with traitors. I'm sorry, I didn't realize how hard it must be for you. I turned to smile at him. It's all right. Everything happens for a reason, right? He smiled. Yup. So does he go to our school? I laughed. At school, he's like my personal savior. He saved me 2 times. We headed back to the party 5 minutes later, only to be met with an angry Blade standing at the door. It was pretty clear that he was eavesdropping to what me and Jace were talking about. Oh, hey man, said Jace as if they were old friends. Blade completely ignored him and looked me over in a possessive, protective manner and walked away. What was that about? Said Jace. I shrugged. Who knows what he's thinking? We head back to the dance floor and Lisa looked even worse than before. John was balancing her on his arm while pushing bodies out of the way. Lisa slipped off his arm, mumbling things as she did so. Damn these messed up people, man. Who spikes the water too? He snapped, catching her last minute. You gotta take her home, I said. I know. Help me push these people out of the way. John and I teamed up, pushing bodies out of the way and making a little pathway for Lisa and John to walk through. We finally made it outside into the fresh air. Jace and I helped John get Lisa inside the car. I'll see you guys on Monday, he said. See ya, man, said Jace. See ya, I said and watched as he drove away. Who spikes a water bowel, said Jace. Sick, weird people, I said. We got into my car and drove to his house. When we reached it, he hesitated before stepping out. "Emerald," he said, poking his ear in. "Yeah? Thanks for letting me talk to you. I never really had a friend I could tell my secrets to." I smiled. "Anytime." He closed the door, and I drove away, feeling a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. Jace's Pav. I couldn't think of any other person than Blade when Emerald had been telling me about her mate. They seemed perfect for each other. It was never really a mystery. I had suspected from the start that they were mates. Tonight, Emerald confirmed it. I thought of how he took care of her the day she was sick. She said he saved her twice. Could that have been one of the 2 times? She said her mate is an enemy. Blade is the pack's biggest enemy because he's the alpha. And he cares so much about her. He's terrible at hiding it. I remember walking in on them in the washroom. They were cuddling right before Blade pushed her away, thinking I hadn't seen anything. I had been confused, but I understand now. They're mates. Wow, I thought to myself. The second in command's daughter was mated with the alpha of the enemy pack. I forced myself to smile, thinking of how fast I completed half of the job. Find out Blade Russell's mate. Check. I thought about Emerald's beautiful face and felt something sink in the pit of my stomach. I hate knowing that I will hurt her. I never expected to like her so much, but how can I not? Every time I was with her, I just wanted to hug and protect her. I really didn't want to hurt her, but I had to be done. She knew too much. She saw my scars and almost found out I was lying about my mate. I hate the way my mother looks at me. She's the alpha of my pack back home, and for her to believe I'm ready to take over, I had to perfect this job. If I mess this up, she'll look at me in disappointment for the rest of my life. I forced myself to focus on what's next. Kill the alpha's mate, so when a fight arrives, he'll be too depressed to even fight back. He'll be begging for us to kill him. But how can I proceed to do that when whenever I think of Emerald, my heart thuds and my brain explodes in a billion pictures of her? M's Pav. I woke up to bright sunshine and saw my mother opening the curtains. "Ugh!" I groaned and dug my face into the pillows. "Stop!" "It's time for breakfast," said my mom. I looked at the clock beside my bed that read 11:38. 5 more minutes, please." "Emerald, get up now. Amanda and Jason are here." "No," I groaned. I stood up and headed into the washroom, washing my face and brushing my teeth. I headed downstairs as slowly as possible, making my way towards the dining table. "Good morning, Em," said Amanda. I remained silent and grabbed 2 pancakes and some fruit. Dad was talking about how he loved being the new second in command. He noticed the stressed look on Mom's face and asked, "What's wrong?" She looked up at me and then at him, muttering, "Nothing." Feeling suddenly sick, I left my food and went back to my room. My phone rang inside my pocket, and I picked it up, seeing a message from Jace. "Meet me at the river today, where I took you." "When?" I texted back. 20 minutes, he asked. "See you in half an hour." I got ready, putting on a pair of jeans and a tut shirt, hoping we would ride the boats again today. "I'm going out," I yelled, going downstairs. "Bye, Em," yelled Amanda. "Ew," I muttered and got into my car. As I was driving a couple of minutes later, I noticed a blurry shadow between the woods following me. Confused, I sped up my driving, but the thing only went faster. I rolled my eyes when I caught sight of its deep black fur and stopped the car. I exited and ran towards the trees. "Are you following me?" I snapped. Blade came out from behind a tree, now in human form, fully nude, covering his private area with his large hands. I cleared my throat and attempted to talk again. Are you following me?" I asked, gulping right after. He smirked. "Yes, I was." "Why?" I said, trying to keep my eyes leveled with his. "My eyes are up here," he said. "I wasn't, you just had a leaf or something on your chest." He looked down to make sure. "It just fell off." I lied. He laughed lightly. "Are you going to tell me why you're following me?" "Where are you going?" Holy shit, I thought. Somebody get him a shirt. I can't concentrate. Answer my question first. Not until you listen to what I have to say first. "I gotta go somewhere." "Where?" he asked. I need to pick up some bread and milk." "You're a terrible liar." Suddenly, my phone rang from my pocket. I picked it up and saw a message from Jace. "Are you almost here?" "I gotta go," I said to Blade. Before I had the chance to move, he grabbed my phone with one hand, leaving the other on his area. I knew it. You're going to meet with him. So what? Stay away from his emerald, please. Something about his doesn't feel right. Why? Do I ever tell you to stay away from Tracy, Brittany, Stacy, Diana, or whoever? For once, stop being so stubborn and just listen to me. No, Blade. You don't control me. I got into my car, poking my head out the window and yelling, "Don't follow me!" I drove away quickly towards the river. 10 minutes later, I parked my car and exited, making my way to the back. "Hey!" I greeted Jace, who stood leaning on a tree. "Hey! Took you long enough." "Yeah, sorry. Are we boating today?" "Boating? Is that a word?" he joked. "Yeah, it is. Look it up." "Okay," he laughed. "Get in the boat." "Yay!" I cheered and got into the boat. We paddled the boat even further than last time, going deeper and deeper into the forest. "Are you sure you know where we're going?" I asked Jace. He smiled. "Yeah, I'm sure." It was getting darker as the trees grew bigger and covered the daylight. "This is kind of scary," I laughed nervously. "I think it's romantic," said Jace. I smiled awkwardly and looked away. I noticed he was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, showing all of his scars. "Nobody will see them here," he said when he noticed me looking. I nodded, dismissing the seemingly double meaning of what he said. Suddenly, he stopped the boat. I turned around and was about to ask him why when I noticed that his eyes were now a dark red color. Confused, I muttered, "Jace, are you okay?" But he wasn't looking at me. He was looking through me. "I'm sorry," he said. "What?" I snapped. "Jace, you're freaking me out." His teeth grew longer, extending in length. In a flash, his face was millimeters from mine. My blood-curdling scream echoed through the forest as his claws clamped down on my body. It was right after Emerald left me that I had gotten that call. My second-in-command had called me, shouting in a frantic voice that the pack house was under attack. I had lost my train of thoughts and for once decided to out my faith in reality and hope nothing had happened to Emerald. I ran as fast as my forelegs can take me and reached the pack house in less than 10 minutes. The first thing I saw were bodies, shifted bodies being thrown around. My pack was strong, but I couldn't tell who was winning. Something attacked me from behind, and I fell to the ground, tackled by a dirty brown wolf similar to the one that attacked Emerald. I growled out loud when it clamped its jaw down on my leg, hurling my paw towards its body, throwing its weight off of me. I dug my fangs into its neck, ripping its head off and moving on to the next rouge. It was easy killing rogues. The hard part was the endless amount of them. Whenever you killed one, they seemed to multiply in 10. I attacked a whole group of them, digging my paws into their bodies while closing my jaw on anything I made contact with. As soon as they were dead, I threw them to the side and moved on. I caught sight of one of my pack members, struggling to fight off a rogue, and went to help. I threw the wolf off of her and stomped on its belly, tearing at its face. I moved on to the center of the fight, and throughout all the chaos, I knew the only way to stop it all was to kill their head leader. My eyes roamed around the place, through hundreds of rogues, ignoring the sounds of growling, and tried to sense the rogue alpha. Suddenly, the biggest rogue I've ever seen stepped out of the crowd after hurling one of my pack members to the side. I growled out loud, thinking he might be dead, and waited for the rogue to approach me. When he did, he growled, signaling that he wanted to fight me. I turned my head to the side, realizing this rogue was a little too feminine. The rogue turned around and exposed her behind, also exposing that she was a girl. The rogue alpha is a woman? Could I kill a woman? Of course, I have to. I stood up tall, showing her that I wasn't fazed and prepared for a long fight. Without warning, she leaped up into the air, clamping her jaw on my shoulder, knocking me into the ground. I growled in pain, because that was the most painful strike I've ever experienced in my life. I struggled to get back up and leaped up to strike her back, but she jumped out of the way, causing me to hit another rogue instead. I got back up, my shoulder bleeding dangerously, and knew that I had every reason to fear this woman. I felt a deep pit of pain and fear, and I wasn't sure where it was suddenly coming from. Did my wolf really fear this woman that much? I tried to shrug off the feeling that something was wrong, focusing all of my attention on killing this wolf, and got ready to attack again. Emerald's pav, the sudden fear of this unimaginable reality, struck me hard, and suddenly it all made sense. In the slight hesitation of the moment, I managed to let out a blood-curdling scream as my fright shattered from the pumping cage it was locked in. I refused to let myself slip into a paralyzed state of shock and to let this sudden beast hurt me more than I've already been hurt. But I wasn't fast enough because he strikes within the speedy seconds, clamping his paws down on my lips, cutting off my ability to scream any louder. I trashed within the few spare meters of the boat despite his lowering left paw that was scratching lines on my waist. "I'm sorry," he whispered into my ear, tracing circles on my neck with his fangs. I felt the blood trickle slowly down my neck, and I was careful to stay frozen. "Wait, why? Why are you doing this? It's easier to just kill you than to explain first and then kill you. I might chicken out."
"Wait, please, wait!"
His fangs dug to the side of my neck, but before they were deep enough to kill me, the boat flipped over, dropping us both into water. He was fully wolf now, swimming to where I was. I put my legs into action and kicked as hard as I can, swimming away from him. His claws grabbed my feet, pulling me back to where he was and scratching my leg, exposing the not yet fully healed cut that the other rogue had created. I screamed out loud as the wolf ducked my head underwater as an attempt to drown me. As hard as I moved my legs and arms, it was no match to its massive strength. I was becoming more exhausted by the second as I fought for my life. I soon became too tired to move, but I knew I couldn't give up. The wolf ducked my head under wanted once again, but this time I couldn't resurface. I remained under there, holding my breath for as long as I can, but I was slowly running out. I opened my eyes and caught sight of the now bloody water. They began to sting, so I quickly closed them. I tried to kick my legs, but they didn't move. It's like they couldn't work anymore. I was just too tired. It felt like each leg weighed 200 pounds. I was slowly giving in to the spinning of my head, and Jace's paws didn't have to work so hard anymore to keep me underwater. I felt like I was 3 times the size I was and was slowly drowning. Suddenly, I felt a strike against my shoulders, but not physically. It was more verbal, but I was too tired to move. Instead, I had no choice but to ignore it and let myself drown against my will. With the few seconds to spare, I thought of Blade and how stupid I was to not listen to him. He warned me, minutes before I got here, that Jace was bad news. I remembered the scars and how he came here with no family. Was he lying about everything? Probably, but out of all the people, why did he choose me to want to kill? Oh yeah, because I'm the enemy's Pax Alpha's mate, and I practically told him that the night of the party. My thoughts slowly began to drift away, and I found myself too tired to even think. My body felt heavy as I fell through the water, sinking deeper into the river. That's why we came out so far. He wanted to drown me in the deepest part. I felt no more pressure on my head and knew Jace was probably gone. This was my chance. I had to make it out. But how do I do that when my body felt like a blue whale? I saw Blade's face and knew I couldn't let him down. What would he do without his wolf? Jace had told me your wolf doesn't die, but he doesn't connect with you anymore. He's an alpha. He needs his wolf. I moved my arm a bit through the water that felt more like quicksand and moved my body a bit. I saw the boat above the water beginning to move and knew this was my last chance to get away. I kicked my legs slowly, enough to go up a bit and hold on to the bottom of the boat. I knew I couldn't let Jace see that I was still alive, so I hardly let myself breathe, going up for air only when I really had to. My lifeless body felt exhausted as it was towed by the boat, and a couple of minutes later, I saw that we were reached land, so I let go and grabbed onto a rock. I waited as he pulled the boat up and tied it to the tree. I couldn't see much because my vision was blurry, but I managed to catch the puffiness of his eyes and the few tears streaming down. When I was sure he was gone, I picked myself up out of the water and laid down on the grass. My body flopped down and I focused on not passing out. I stayed there for, I don't know how long. It could have been 10 minutes or an hour. I didn't know. My body was drained physically despite how wet I was. I shivered when a breeze blew gently, finally having enough energy to fish out my phone from my pocket. I pressed the button, but the screen remained blank. I tapped everything that I could, but it was clear that my phone was broken. I threw it to the side and sat up slowly. How would I get home? No doubt Jace had gotten rid of my car by now to remove any evidence that I was ever here. I got up with the tiny amount of energy that I had and wobbled for a bit. I walked forward, testing out my balance, and suddenly felt another invisible strike to the shoulder. I fell to the ground with how strong the impact was. I had no energy left now. What I managed to gain in the time I spent laying down was all used up now. All I got muster now was just laying down. It was as if air had just punched me. What the hell? Was Blade fighting somebody? If he is, then it makes sense why Jace would try to kill me. It was his plan all along to find Blade's mate and kill her so that he would be too weak to fight the rogues. But I'm alive. Blade has to fight. He's probably feeling so damn drained up because I feel like that. If something happens to him, it would be my fault. I felt my practically dead wolf stirring at the sound of that, and suddenly, I felt the urge to just get up and find Blade. But I couldn't. It felt as if my arms and legs were carved into the ground. I breathed in and out slowly, begging for my wolf to be strong enough because it's going to be all on her. My human is clearly gone. I tried to shift laying down, but it wouldn't work. I sat up slowly, leaning against the tree, and shifted. My wolf didn't spurge out like it usually does in gracefulness and independence. Instead, it was tripping on its 4 paws, hardly managing to walk properly. I began to light jog towards the forest, estimating that Blade's pack house was about 20 minutes away at the speed that I'm going. The first thing I smelled while still being 10 minutes away was the smell of blood and fire. I speeded up my pace, now hearing the loud screaming and growling. When I got there, a chaotic fight was the first thing I saw. I saw members of my pack helping members of Blade's pack as they fought against the hundreds of rogues. Whenever they killed one, 10 seemed to reappear out of nowhere. Suddenly, I felt a deep drop in the pit of my stomach. My heart dropped to my knees like it would on an 80 degrees roller coaster. Expect 10 times worse. I felt screaming inside my head and growling. Lots of growling. I knew it before I saw it. My eyes were being led by an invisible force towards the middle of it all, where a rogue wolf stood with one paw on the lifeless body of the darkest black wolf. Blade? It felt as if my gut had dropped to the deepest pit in my body. All my organs collapsed on one another, clogging up my breathing and cutting off my ability to speak. I felt as if my legs were sinking into the ground and my bones were held hostage, making it impossible for me to move. My lungs burned with anxiety and the urge to sprat themselves screaming out Blade's name, desperately, as if he would respond. The female alpha stood with all her dominating status, one paw placed on Blade's back as she looked around the fight. Everything was still in chaos. I still saw fighting and blood with the corner of my eyes, but I couldn't hear anything. It seemed as if the world had frozen, to me only. My knees sank to the ground when I realized his current state is my fault. He must have been feeling the pain I was feeling, and he wasn't strong enough to fight back. Because of me. He had told me not to go, but I was stupid enough to disobey him. I felt my eyes drooping and my shoulders dropping down. The mud around me mixed in with my cloths and skin, but I couldn't seem to care. The female alpha stepped away from Blade and began to take out some other wolf. The fight broke out even bigger now as my pack stepped into it, and I could barely see Blade now, despite his body being only a couple of meters away. I felt my tiredness and misery drop down in me like 1,000 pounds, and my eyelids began to fall. My vision began to blur, and all I could see from Blade's was his reached-out arm. I was losing all hope at how blurry and still it looked. My eyes were almost fully closed now, and just when I was about to enter the darkness, I caught sight of the tiniest movement. His thumb began to twitch. Suddenly, my vision became clear. My eyes widened in shock, and the fact that he might be alive. The deadness inside lightened as I begged fate, reality, God, or whoever was up there to provide me with the strength I need to get over there. But my wolf was dead, used up, empty, with the possibility that her mate might be dead. But my human had hope. I couldn't reach out to her and tell her, but I had to find a way to get to him. I began to crawl, reaching out my hands, hoping they wouldn't get trampled, as I made my way towards him as slowly as possible. I moved past a dead wolf with its eyes staring straight into mine, as blank as a white sheet of paper. I got pushed to the side by something, landing right in the middle of yet another mud puddle. I couldn't get the tears that were desperately vibrating to burst. It hurt too much to keep them trapped, but for some reason they wouldn't come out. I pushed past the barrier of reality that was clearly trying to keep me from getting to Blade and forced my aching body to get up. I felt as if I was dragging a 1,000-pound horse behind me that was tied to a house. It was literally impossible for me to move. I almost wished that I had died within the Jace attempt and process so I wouldn't have to feel like this. My emptiness inside refused to be fulfilled, even as it was bombarded with the hope of Blade being alive. I managed to make it another foot forward, gasping for breath, trying to blend in with the muddy ground so the rouges wouldn't recognize me. I saw Blade's body being kicked further away from me. I slammed the side of my face into the mud, losing all hope now and trying to face the fact that I wasn't meant to be alive right now, so there's no way I'd get to him. I felt my lids drooping as the life was drained out of my wolf. The longer my wolf continued to believe that her mate was dead, the more I die. Jace had lied to me. Your wolf does die when your mate does, and so does your human. I felt my vision going dark, and my body finally slipped into unconsciousness. I had to blink a couple of times before my eyes adjusted to the sudden bright light. I sat up startled and looked around, wondering where the hell I was. Memories came rushing back into my brain, and without a warning, I felt my body squeeze into itself physically like my bones were dissolving. I screamed out loud, arching my back on the bed that I was laying in, clenching the covers with my fists hard enough to split my skin in half. The door burst open, and Jason ran in, followed by a couple of nurses who began to press buttons on the wall and play with the tubes that I've now noticed were connected to my skin. I shut my eyes as tightly as I can, praying to anyone out there to end this torture. I felt someone holding my hand and another person laying me down on the bed again. You'll be all right. It's all fine. You're all good. I heard someone whispering into my ear. I opened my eyes slowly as the pain dissolved, my eyes coming in contact with Jason's as they opened slowly. Are you okay? He whispered. Yeah, I muttered. I'm fine. Am I at the hospital? Yeah, it doesn't look like it because this is a special room. For messed up, heartbroken teenage girls who don't know shot about life, you can put it like that, he said. Where's Mom and Dad? Pack meeting. The fight ended a couple of hours ago. We won. Do they know I'm here? Yeah, but they think you just got into a fight with some rouge. They don't know you're here because your mate is dying. Mom knows. She found out. I was wondering why she was giving me those knowing eyes when I told her. Dad is going to have to find out sooner or later. I know. Where's Amanda? In the waiting room. She figured you wouldn't want to see her face when you wake up. She got that right. He rolled his eyes. Even when you're in this state, huh? Yup, I said, popping the pea. He chuckled. Damn. How did you get so bloody? I fought a couple of rouges. You gotta watch those cuts. They're bleeding through the bandages. Don't worry about me. I'm not. I'm afraid they'll get all over me. I remained silent as the one question I have been dying to ask popped into my head. Just ask, Jason rolled his eyes. I looked up at him, my teary eyes reflected in his. I'm too scared to. You'll find out anyway. Where is he? In the room beside you. I nodded, pausing a few seconds before asking, is he? No, he's not dead. I felt a huge weight drop off my shoulders and let my back rest now. I placed my palms on my face, feeling the tears trickle down as I muttered, thank God. But I wasn't listening. I was too busy tearing up at the unbelievable amount of relief. It was amazing, though, how every word Jason said flew right past me because I wasn't listening until he spoke 4 short words that blew up in my ears, making it impossible to not hear. He's in a coma. It felt like a slap on the face. That's literally what those 4 small words felt like. A hard slap on the face, except from the Hulk. What? I muttered. I'm sorry, Em. My vision was becoming blurry again as I slowly lifted my legs and placed them on the ground. What are you doing? Em, the nurses said you have to stay here. Get off of me, I screamed when he grabbed my hands. He left me be, startled by my sudden outburst, his eyes wide open. I stood up and opened the door, making my way fast towards the room beside me. I grabbed onto the wall to balance myself, my knees going weak and dropping every couple of seconds. I twisted the doorknob of the door beside me and saw a room similar to mine's. The walls were white and clean. There was a bed, not hospital-like at all, in the middle of the room, pushed up to the wall with long blue curtains around it. I walked towards the bed, pushing aside the curtains to reveal a pale Blade, looking like he was sleeping, except for the cuts that surrounded his face and 2 purple bags under his eyes. I felt my fingers lingering over his as I let my other hand gently caress the side of his face. I caught sight of my tear landing perfectly on his cheek and leaned down to kiss his forehead. Suddenly, I felt my knees dropping again, this time with stronger force, and the feeling of my dissolving bones returned. I screamed out loud, falling into the ground, arching my back as an attempt to stop the pain, managing to grab Blade's hands on the way. Jason, who was at the doorway, ran towards me, calling out for the nurses to come help. My eyelids dropped downwards without my control, blocking my vision from everything around me, surrounding me with the never-ending darkness that lingered inside my soul. I felt many hands grabbing me all at the same time, pumping things into my system. Chemicals that they thought can help me were put into my body. Useless, that's what they were. Useless because my only medicine was Blade. I heard the doctors talking as I opened my eyes for the second time today from sleep. I looked besides me and realized I was now in the same room as Blade, and my bed was placed besides his. I reached out to hold his hand, but I couldn't reach. I sighed and dropped my arm. I listened in to the doctors talking, confirming Blade's condition. His wolf was too weak. He sensed his mate in danger and just couldn't focus. She must have been dying for his to lose all his strength too fast. She seemed like she was. Her brother said he found her just a couple of meters away from Blade, laying in the mud, completely wet. Is there a guess on her condition? Yes, we think she might have been drowned but managed to swim to shore. A lot of salt water was found in her system. How long until she'll be all right? She won't be all right until he's all right. For now, she'll have trouble walking, even trouble staying awake. She'll be slipping in and out of a coma every couple of hours. What's wrong with her back? We still haven't figured it out. We think it's her wolf, slowly letting go. And her wolf is like her organ, so it's affecting her back, causing her pain. That makes sense. Keep a nurse updated on her condition. It won't matter because she only gets better if he gets better. Well, we honestly have no idea to how long he could be in a coma for. It could be from a week to 10 years. We honestly have no idea. It should be a bit better now. I think putting her in the same room as him will help. Hopefully. Well, for now, we can't tell anybody they're mates. Her brother requested it. All right, let's go. As soon as they left, I jumped out of the bed and went to Blade's. I laid in his bed, curled up in his scratched-up arms. A week to 10 years. That's how long he can be in a coma for. I let silent tears fall down my face as I prepared to face reality with all that's left of me. Jason came into my room a couple of hours later. By then, I was back in my bed because some old, grumpy nurse demanded it. Hey, he greeted, sitting on some plastic chair. Hey, how are you doing? Good, I heard the doctors over talking. And, he asked, his face becoming nervous. They were saying Blade could be in a coma for a week to 10 years. I'm so sorry, Em, he said, his eyes teary. I don't know why, of all people, fate had to direct its anger at you. You haven't done anything to deserve it, and I haven't been helpful at all. 10 years, Jason. He could be dead for 10 years, and I would have to be like him, just dead for 10 years too. Tears began to stream down my face, cascading in pairs as I reached out to Jason. He grabbed me in a tight embrace, muttering his sorry words into my ears. Jason? I asked after a couple of minutes. Yeah? He asked after a couple of minutes. Who killed the female Rouge Alpha that did this to Blade? Jace. I saw black shapes and figures. Some were a bit identifiable, shaped in a clear human form. Others seemed to be physically deformed or disabled. I saw things crawling around, but they didn't seem to have legs. I couldn't see their faces or anything. They were shadows brought to me by my haunted thoughts. I somehow knew that what I was seeing wasn't real life. It didn't feel real. It felt just like you'd expect a nightmare to feel. That didn't change the fact that it was utterly horrifying. Every once in a while, red blobs splashed my vision, and I forced myself to think of it as ketchup or some sort of red liquid. Anything other than what I knew it really was. I never felt myself screaming, though. I saw myself, mentally, mouth wide open, with my tunkles vibrating as I screamed bloody murder. But I couldn't feel it. I felt my lungs burning, turning into ashes as I struggled to find my breath. I saw the clear fear in my eyes as I stared into the soul of these figures that seemed to crawl around me like snakes. Every ounce of my body was telling me to get out of there, to leave this terrible place, and to never come back. But it was as if my feet were glued to the ground, and even if they weren't, something told me I wouldn't have left anyway. I felt as there was something inside of there calling me, and I couldn't leave without exploring what it was. But I couldn't move towards it. I was held hostage by my own fears. The thing that was calling me seemed to fade away slowly. The more time I took to get there, struggling hopelessly against these invisible bounds, the faster the thing seemed to fade away. Slowly, I felt myself disappearing as the hope was sucked out of me. My knees shattered the ground beneath me as I sank deeper below the surface, the wet mud dissolving into my lungs and my vision until finally I couldn't see anything. Emerald! Emerald! Wake up! Emerald, please! I felt myself being shaken awake violently. A loud screaming was coming from a distance. It sounded horrified and haunted. I still couldn't see anything, but I heard multiple people shouting and screaming. A loud beeping was coming out of a monitor, and it took me a long time to realize that the distanced, horrified screaming was actually me. I opened my eyes, finally quiet, and saw a teary-eyed Jason and a couple of nurses with their hands on my shoulders. Finally, I heard Jason sigh and dig his face into my neck. "What happened?" I said, blinking a couple of times, trying to get the image of crawling shadows out of my vision. "You had a nightmare," said one of the nurses. I nodded. "I know, but why are you all here?" "You were experiencing sleep apnea." "What's that?" "It's when you stop breathing in your sleep. Sometimes it's only for a couple of seconds. Other times it can last for longer, and if it goes on for long enough, you can die." I tried to swallow the thick tension in the air as I prepared to ask the question they knew I'd ask. How long was I going for? A small silence passed before they answered me. 2 minutes. I nodded, swallowing again to make sure my voice still worked. How long does it take to kill me? About 1.5 minutes. I felt a tear slide down the corner of my eye. How? We still don't know, but for now, we are checking Blade's breathing, and we are hooking a system to him that can monitor his breathing 24/7 just in case. Mean if at any moment he experiences this in his coma, he can die? I snapped out. Unfortunately, I let my head slam against the bed, sighing out loud and fluffing out my lips as an attempt to hold back tears. I felt Jason's hands slip in with mine. This is all my fault. That's all I could think of as my heart thudded inside my chest, and I remembered the words so clearly when Blade told me not to go. But I was foolish and pointlessly feeling that I needed to prove to him that I don't need him anymore. Now that I thought about it, I realized that it could have also been the pleasure of seeing him so damn jealous. I felt selfish, useless, and plain cold. Later on that day, I was told that I had visitors. The door opened and the room was filled with my parents, Amanda, Jared, Lisa, Jack, Jared's father, and Jason. "Emerald," my mom had yelled, kissing every spot that didn't have machines hooked onto it. After about 10 minutes of kissing and hugging, everybody finally sat down. Suddenly, the door opened and in stepped Jace. I let out a loud gasp, choking on my breath. I imagined everybody standing up also and attacking him or something, but that didn't happen. Instead, they all smiled at him and patted his back as he approached, keeping his eyes everywhere but near mine. "There he is," said Jared's father, "the pack savior." I remembered Jason telling me that he killed the female alpha. Yup, I thought, he's the pack savior and also the guy that tried to kill me. "Hey, Emerald," he said, his eyes barely leveling with mine. My breathing grew heavier as I stared into his blue eyes, my shocked expression mirroring the fear inside of me. I felt river water filling my lungs and drowning me. I felt my bones melting and my body just deflating. "Emerald," I heard somebody saying. "Emerald, are you okay?" "Yeah," I mumbled, snapping out of it. I'm fine. I spoke to my mother, but I was looking directly into Jace's eyes. Why did he try to kill me? The doctor told us what's going on, Dad was saying. Yeah, it sucks, I mumbled. Can you remember anything about the rouge that did this to you? We still might be able to find him. Dad, I don't think that will bring back my health. I know. It's just every time I think of someone doing this to you, I just want to break their bones in half. My eyes flickered to where Jace was standing in the corner. His eyes were leveled with the ground. I can't remember much. All I can really remember is being so shocked. I didn't see it coming at all, and I think that's why I was so helpless. Whoever that rouge was, he really knew how to fool me. Can you remember anything else? Like how he looked like? Cloths? Hair color? Not much. I can remember an evil face. He was just so full of hatred, and he talked while being half human, half wolf. Can that happen? I don't know. He somehow managed to do it. Were you really drowned? Yup, but he was stupid enough to leave before making sure I was fully dead. I held onto his boat while he drove away. God gave me a strong little girl, Dad was saying. Suddenly, a loud bang came from where Jace was standing. All of our eyes directed to where he was standing. The glass jar filled with roses was now on the ground, shattered into a million pieces. I'll go get somebody to clean it up, he said, heading for the door. I think I was the only one that noticed his fists twitching into claws as he left the room. It was 10 minutes later of chatting, and Jace still hasn't come back. Blade Russell is in the bed besides you, right? I can't see because of the curtains, said Dad. Yup, I said. The doctors put us together because there were no more rooms. Hope you don't mind. It's fine. They are no longer enemies to our pack because Try fought by our side. I almost laughed out loud. Amazing. It really was. When our two packs finally begin to get along, Blade goes into a coma, and I'm stuck with some sleep disorder and some sort of coma condition where I black out a couple of hours. I forced myself to smile. That's awesome news. I saw Jared staring at me almost intentionally, and I knew what he was thinking. This is the time to tell them he's my mate. Hell no, I thought. Last time I told somebody, they tried to kill me, which resulted in Blade in a coma. My lips are sealed. A couple of minutes later, I decided leaving to go to the bathroom wouldn't be suspenseful, so I excused myself, declining their offers to help me there. I exited the room, heading towards the corner and turning, looking all over for Jace. I finally spotted him outside and headed towards him. I noticed he wasn't wearing a white shirt underneath his jacket anymore. Instead, it just revealed his glinting with sweat abs. His white shirt was now shredded and in his hand. We need to talk, I said. He didn't say anything. Instead, he began to walk away. Hey, come back. We need to talk. You can just try to murder me and show up at my hospital pity party like your family. But he wouldn't listen. Jace, I'm talking to you. Stop walking away from. I didn't get a chance to finish my words because he turned around and in a flash, he was right in front of my face. His hands held onto my head tightly and his lips locked on mine's in a tragic kiss. Jared's Pav. It became clear and obvious when Emerald refused everyone's offers to help her to the washroom that she was going to go see Jace. I hadn't missed her terrified expression when he had stepped into the room. Also, Jace had kept his eyes leveled anywhere but near her. I usually figure things out quickly, but this I didn't get. What happened between Em and Jace that made her react the way she did? The look on her face was one of utter and complete destruction. Excuse me, I mumbled to Jasmine and my father, stepping out of the crowded room. I smiled politely at a nurse walking by and looked around for the washroom. I caught sight of it quickly and headed on over, knocking softly on the door. Emmy? I asked, and quickly corrected myself, remembering she didn't like me calling her that. Emerald? No answer. I opened the door only to be met with an empty room. I sighed, having expected this. I walked around a bit, looking for where she might have gone, but I didn't spot her anywhere. I ran my fingers through my hair and turning around only to be met with the sight of her and Jace through a window. Their lips were locked together in a passionate kiss. I dropped my hand, feeling all of my energy being sucked out of me. I felt as little as the dust on the ground. Suddenly, I saw Emerald fists twitching as she tried to push him away. I didn't think anymore. It was like brain was kicked out of the equation, and my adrenaline became my new source of action. I darted towards the door, running at full speed until I reached them, before grabbing Jace by the shoulders and landing my fist squared into his jaw. I heard a loud scream as I knocked him to the ground, growling loudly when I felt his claws scratching my knees. I pushed Em away from him when I noticed his body beginning to twitch. He darted up, now in wolf form, and ran for the woods, howling loudly behind him. I turned towards a flustered Emerald, breathing hardly. "Are you okay? Why did you do that?" she snapped. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I needed to talk to him. Now I probably won't see him for months." "But Em, he was kissing you, and you were struggling. It's a kiss, Jared, not a weapon of mass destruction. Relax. Stay out of my life next time." She had tears now running down her face and was about to walk away when suddenly she froze and her eyes began to flutter. "Em?" But she wouldn't respond. She looked somewhere far away. "Em, you okay?" I stepped forward just as her eyes shut and she fell backwards into my arms. I carried her inside, running rapidly towards a nurse. "Help, ma'am, please." "What happened?" she yelled, helping me lie Em down on a stretcher. I don't know. She just fainted." She wheeled Emerald into a room and placed a long, slender tube in between her lips. "Is this Emerald Carson?" she asked, pressing some buttons. "Yes, why?" "She's the one with sleep apnea and sudden comas. This machine will help her breathe while she sleeps. So she's just going to slip into sudden comas from now on?" "Yes, and unfortunately she also has sleep apnea, which basically means she sometimes forgets to breathe during sleep, and if it lasts for long periods of time, it can kill her." I collapsed in the sofa nearby, burying my hands in my hair. "The doctor didn't say that," I snapped. "He was told not to, due to the recent events. He thought it would be a bit too much for them to handle." "Is this because of her mate? Because he's in a coma? Or is it just because she was almost drowned?" "It's both, really. When one mate is weak, they need help from their other mate to strengthen them. But when both mates are equally weakened, what happened with Emerald and her mate, both of their wolves just gave out. His first and her wolf was strong enough to hold on a little longer, resulting in sudden comas and sleep apnea. So her mate has got it worse? Of course, he's in a coma and she won't get better until he does. Fuck, I yelled, slamming my fists into the table beside me. She doesn't deserve this happening to her. We are trying the best we can, sir, but I'm afraid it's all up to fate now. Fate's never been good to her, so it won't start now. The nurse remained quiet for a moment before staying. That's unfortunate. The door suddenly opened and Emerald's parents walked in. Oh, my baby. Her mom began to cry, running towards her daughter. What happened? She went into a sudden coma. Don't worry, ma'am. These only last a day top. Sudden coma. The doctor never said anything about that. How did this happen? Emerald's father snapped. This is merely her wolf's reaction to the state of her mate. Mate? She doesn't even have a mate. He screamed. You call yourself a hospital. You can even get your facts right. There must be something not right then, sir. It clearly states here that her mate is in a coma. Therefore, how when she has no damn mate, Mary? He looked at his wife, who has gone quiet. Can you believe this? Sir, it says here that her mate. Enough about the mate already. Mary, we're moving hospitals. But she wouldn't answer. Mary, why are you so quiet? They don't even have their facts right here. She sighed and looked up at me. What's going on? Is there something I don't know? He finally yelled. Let's go talk outside, she said, taking him out of the room. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to reveal anything I wasn't sup, began the nurse, apologizing. I sighed. It was bound to come out anyway. It might as well happen while she's in a coma. The next couple of hours were chaos. Emerald's father had left the hospital in anger and disappointment from what I heard. Mary had told him Emerald had a mate, but has yet to reveal who it was. Emerald woke up a couple of hours later and was immediately surrounded with her friends and family. Jace was also here, but had refused to come inside. Something told me he didn't want to face Emerald. I hadn't had the chance to talk to him, but when I do, I will demand answers to all these lingering questions. Why did he kiss Em? Why was she so scared when she saw him? What is going on between them at the moment? But one thing I was certain of was that I had to be Emerald's protector now that Blade is practically dead. Emerald's Pav. Everybody talked. They all had something to say, whether it was about school, home, the pack, even the news. Someone was always talking, unaware of the person inside of me yelling, "Shut up and leave me alone." All I wanted to do at the moment was crawl over to Blade's bed and lay down with his lifeless body. I noticed that Dad wasn't here and felt relieved. One less voice talking over all the others. I thought of Jace and remembered that I still had to talk to him. He had so much to explain, like why did he try to kill me? A part of me still couldn't believe that sweet little Jace tried to murder me. The one who lied to me about his mate and parents dying, the one that made me feel so bad for him and like him so much. I liked him enough to disobey my mate just to see him. "Emerald, honey, do you want some cookies?" My mother was asking. "No thanks," I smiled. An hour later, they all finally left, leaving me alone with an unconscious Blade. I slipped out of my bed and made my way to his, parting his curtains and hopping onto his bed. I closed the curtains to give us some privacy and hugged him close. "I miss you," I mumbled into his chest. I let the silence settle and listened to the beating of his heart. It was the only thing that made him alive at the moment. I stroked his hair, wanting to redo time so badly, wishing that I hadn't gone to visit Jace that day. "It all my fault," I mumbled, breathing in his scent. He no longer smelled like the forest and perfume. He now smelled of chemicals and too much medicine. "I should have just listened to you and not have gone. You were right." I thought of all the times I disobeyed him, and sometimes I ended up regretting it, but this time I messed up big enough that it affected his life. I felt a tear slip down the corner of my eye as I kissed his rough cheek that was now furry with hair. "I really missed you," I said into his ear. "I doubt you can hear me, but please come back." Suddenly, I remembered our most passionate kiss that night of the party. I was the happiest girl in the morning when I woke up to his face. I blushed just thinking about the kiss. How do I go on every day without those kinds of kisses? It was mainly passionate because of all our anger and compulsion. It had all smashed into one, and it all came out in one angry, violent, lustful, hungry kiss. How can I wake up my prince? I thought of all those movies and stories where a kiss can bring back love from the dead. I sat up and stared at his face, letting my gaze travel down to his lips. I leaned in forward, just as a tear escaped my eyes. The moment it hit his cheek was the same moment my lips touched his. I suddenly felt like I was invading his personal space and backed away quickly. For some reason, a large part of me was expecting his eyes to open after that kiss. They never did. I finally broke down and cried into his shoulders. "I'm so sorry," I cried out loud. "Please come back, please." Jace's Pav. I wanted to collapse to my knees and beg for her forgiveness. I wanted, more than anything, to sell her my soul and pray to anything up there that she would at least know how much I'm hurting. It was a battle between my depression and sadness that day of the battle. Somehow my depression won, and I ended up needing to kill her. Needing to just get it over with, picturing my mother's neutral expression telling me that I did at least one thing right. It was too late when I finally realized it wasn't worth it. Why, for years, have I been so damn desperate to earn a simple good job from my mother? Never, in my life, had she even bothered to crack a smile at me. She's treated me like an unworthy pack member for as long as I can remember. Her love wasn't worth all this trouble. I was angry. My wolf was flaming red and my human was in destruction. The fact that I killed one of the only people in my life that I've really grown to like hit me hard, and it was all because of her. My mother, who isn't a mother at all. My anger had gotten the best of me, and I decided to kill her. It was so sudden, my thoughts being so thoughtless. I don't think I even knew I had a brain while I ripped apart her bones. The closer I got to shredding her cold heart, the more I realized that I killed a person for her. The more I ripped apart layers of skin, the heavier the impact hit me that Emerald is gone. I had tears in my eyes as I ripped apart her unworthy soul. That's all I remember. I saw nothing but blurry bloods between my streaming rivers of tears. Looking back when they told me they found her, in the heart of the battle, still alive but barely, I felt emotionless. I hadn't regretted killing my mother, though. Now, looking at what I've done to her, I bet she wished she were dead. So many lies I've told her, So much pain I've caused her. If anyone deserved to die, it was me. The way she cried into Blade's shoulder, apologizing 1,000 times and begging him to please come back, I felt like I was nothing. I felt as little as the dust particles floating around the air. I felt as worthless as my mother's heart must have been. I took a step forward, sinking myself deeper into the pit of lava that burned slowly on my soul. Emerald's tears became clearer in my vision. Her beautiful green eyes were filled with so much depression that it only sank me deeper into my self-destruction. I wanted to part my lips and speak, but what could I possibly say to ease the pain? She still hadn't noticed me, and I felt too trapped in my own brain to say anything. My heart began to thud loudly, and I finally decided to leave and come back when I've broken out of my self-prison. I stepped back, turning around slowly, accidentally knocking into a long ebony table, shooting pain throughout my knee. "Jace?" I heard a soft, cracked voice behind me. I sighed and turned around slowly. Her bagged eyes were now blood red and staring wide open at me. She looked like she couldn't believe her eyes. Her eyebrows scrunched together like she was trying to figure me out and stepped out of the bed. Holding her expression, she took small, slow steps in my direction, never breaking our eye contact, before standing still right in front of me. We held our eyes in place for a while, and she just stared at me with the same torn and confused expression. Her gaze was staring me down, but at the same time, I seemed to have lost my ability to move anything. I couldn't even blink. She stared into my eyes, her gaze eating at my insides and bringing me closer and closer to my self-duplicating death. Finally, her arm twitched, and that was the only thing I saw before her palms flashed too past for my vision to register and whipped my face to the side. I felt my throbbing cheek grow red and screamed out in pain, collapsing down to my knees. I touched over my face gently, feeling up blood and tracing 4 deep scratch marks from the corner of my lips and towards my ear. I deserved that. I looked up at Emerald, no longer seeing the innocent girl that I used to know. Now she looked cold, her expression mirroring my mother's as she discovered that I'm about to kill her. An expression that seemed calm in an angry way, but held so much masked pain. "Are you going to start explaining anytime soon?" Her voice came out strong but hurt, powerful but scared. It was stable but very loose. She had lost all signs of being Emerald. She was plain angry and deserved to know the truth. I'm sore. "Don't bother, that won't change anything," she snapped before I even had time to finish my second word. Stunned, I had to remind myself that I tried to kill her and almost succeeded if she wasn't so strong. "But you need to know how sorry I am." I tried again before she cut me off. "That doesn't explain anything," she said. "I asked for an explanation, not a damn apology." "But," I muttered, "but nothing. If I wanted to be apologized to, I'd go cry to my mom about how sucky my life is. Now are you going to start explaining anytime soon?" I tried to. I took a deep breath and tried again. I tried to kill you because I was told to by my mother." "Who's this mother?" "The leader of the Rouge Pack, the Alpha." "You killed your own mother," she said, her expression holding its ice. She didn't say it like it was a question, but I still confirmed it with a yes. "You're a Rouge." Again I said, "Yes." "Continue." "I joined the pack because my mother asked me to spy on your pack. She asked me to find out everything I could about both packs, yours and the other one." "Blade's pack." "Yes, I only joined to make her happy. My mother has always hated me, ever since my father died 4 years ago, when I was 14. He was the Alpha back then, and I was supposed to take his spot, but I refused because I was too afraid, so my mother had to take it. She hated me ever since because I would never turn out to be as strong as her or my father, so she treated me like I wasn't even a pack member." My voice was becoming thick with anger. I agreed to come spy on your pack, promising myself that I will do whatever it takes to gain my mother's respect. I never thought I'd meet a person like you." I looked up at her unchanging expression. "I never thought I'd fall in love for you." She held her icy gaze. "But I knew that I still had to find out everything. But you were smart and kept asking a lot of questions, so from then it was lie after lie. I'm sore." "Keep explaining," she snapped, refusing an apology. I let out a sigh and continued. "After I noticed how you and Blade seemed to be really close, I told my mother, and she sent a wolf after you that night, after the pack meeting, when you and your family went to Jared's father's house. Someone saved you from the wolf, though, and I assumed that it was Blade because he was also with you at Jared's father's house. Then, at the party, you told me that your mate was an alpha enemy, and I knew it had to be Blade. I told my mother, and she told me to take care of you, and she'll take care of the rest of the pack. She said by killing you, Blade won't be able to fight, so it will be easy to kill him, therefore taking over his territory. So you invited me over for a boat ride, already planning my death. Yes, I muttered. I never saw it coming, she whispered. I felt my eyes tearing up. Continue, she said, her voice cracking up. When you got to the river, we got on the boat and all that, I never planned on drowning you. It was supposed to be a quick, painless death. How thoughtful, she snapped. But the boat tipped over and you were getting away. I had to do something. So I drowned you. I thought I had killed you. I even saw you sinking, and I couldn't take it anymore. I had to leave. So I did, but somehow you managed to grab onto my boat and save yourself. I remember, she said, that I left for a run and I knew the battle already started and that our pack was probably winning because you were dead, which meant Blade was weak and my mother could easily kill him. It took me a long time to realize that I killed the girl I loved for a mother that doesn't even want me. She wasn't worth anything. I was so angry, I just ran to the battle and killed her. But by then, you were already there, trying to save Blade, and you just blacked out. The rest you know. What happened to your mate? There was never a mate. I shifted on my own. My mother said I wasn't worthy of a mate, so she never let me find her. I don't pity you, she said. That itself felt like another slap to the face. I wasn't expecting her to pity me, but the way she said it, she despised me so much. You almost killed my mate. Like, sucks for a lot of people, but you don't go around killing people because your mommy doesn't love you. I looked down, not being able to face her. I wanted to beg for her forgiveness, but I couldn't seem to speak. You blame it all on mommy for being so damn inconsiderate, but look who's came spying on a pack just to result in their death or surrender. That just dug me deeper into my pit of shame. Your mother was low, but does it kill you to know that you're probably worse than her? Stop. I wanted to scream out, please. She killed feeling without emotions, but you had tons of emotions? How could you be so damn ignorant? It takes a real cold-hearted person to drown somebody with so much feelings running inside of them. I'm sorry, I snapped, feeling tears streaming down my face, landing on my scratches, causing a burning sensation. I'm so sorry. That's not going to bring me back my mate, she said, too calmly and too gently. It was like when a child preferred their parent be angry than disappointment, because disappointment hurts so much more. I'd rather her scream at me than talk to me like I've ruined everything and it was just too late to get everything back. It's not too late, I wanted to say. She's still alive and Blade still has chances of surviving. Crying isn't going to help anybody, Jace, she said, sounding more like a monster than an 18-year-old girl. It's just going to sting your scratch marks. She said it like she was just trying to help. Suddenly, someone began to choke behind her. It got louder and louder by the second, but Emerald just stayed frozen. Em's Pav. There are over 7 trillion nerves inside of the body, and as soon as the choking entered my ear, they all had somehow managed to freeze. I stood breathless in my spot, still staring at a horror-stricken Jace, who at the moment was still on his knees. The choking grew louder, and I found myself growing fearful. Horror drove itself into my system, slithering like breathing slime, leaving trails of hopelessness everywhere that it touched. I felt my insides melting with emotion as nurses burst into the room, one of them pushing me aside until I landed on a sofa nearby. Throughout the chaos, Jace had gotten up and ran to where I was laying. I heard the sounds of at least 3 machines, beeping and screaming loudly, and then a green line on some sort of machine that went straight. "We're losing him," I heard someone scream. "Pump harder." The last thing I saw was Jace's panicked face as I drifted towards the hell awaiting me. My nightmares. Jace's Pav. She fainted. Emerald just fainted. The realization hit me quick, and I attempted to get one of the nurses' attentions, but they were all too busy pumping things into Blade's system and shouting things out loud. 2 doctors ran in and immediately got to work, unaware of the unconscious teenager on the couch. I left them to work and carried Emerald in my arms, taking her to an empty room a couple of halls away and laying her down on the bed. After making sure she was comfortable, I went back to Blade's room, which was now locked. I stood on my tippy toes, peering through the small window that allowed me a glimpse into the room. It had about 3 nurses and 2 doctors, all of them sweating with hard work. A nurse connected a familiar machine onto Blade's mouth, and I realized I recognized it because it was also hooked onto Emerald to help her breath during her sudden comas. Was Blade experiencing sleep apnea? That explained the choking. He must have stopped breathing for a long time for it to be this dangerous. I sighed and headed to Emerald's room. At the sight of her, clutching her throat in her sleep, with a pained look on her face, I panicked. I ran up to her, trying my hardest to wake her up and to end her miserable coma, but whatever I did, it was no help. Blade's POV. It felt like fire in my lungs. It was as if a jagged iron was pressed against my throat. I felt helpless. A faint beeping sound in the distance entered my ear, and I slowly became more aware of reality. I felt chemicals slithering through my body as in to fix it, but deep down I knew they were helpless. My wolf began to stir and growl in need for its mate. My body, mind, and soul demanded for its other half, angered to have spent so long without her in my arms. Time went by slowly, but I didn't know if it had been minutes or hours. All I knew was that I was becoming more and more awakened. Although my lids still covered my eyes, I knew that I was in a bright place. I also knew that I was in a room full of people who were running around, shouting and ordering things of other people. Maybe I was still at the battle. My eyes slowly began to attach themselves to reality and opened one at a time, blinking rapidly as they adjusted to this new sudden light. I looked around. I was being stared down by about 5 other people. Some nurses, some doctors. The room was strange. It didn't seem like a hospital room, more like a normal bedroom you'd find at a 4-star hotel. The walls were blue, and so were the bed covers. There was a lamp, a couch, and an open door that showed a bathroom inside. If it weren't for the 3 machines hooked to my body, the doctors and the nurses and the strange curtains, I would have guessed that this was a hotel. "Blade, how are you feeling?" asked one of the doctors. "Where's Emerald?" I croaked out, "Where's my mate?" Emerald's POV. I felt the jagged iron that was pressed to my throat replace itself with cooling eyes and woke up with a gasp, finally free of pain. I looked around and caught sight of Jace sleeping on one of the chairs. I was in a different room now, away from Blade. Blade. Memories dawned into my brain and I threw my pillow at Jace. He awoke with startle, and when he noticed that I was awake, he stood up and headed my way. "Finally, you're awake! What happened?" "You fainted when Blade was choking." Choking. Did they? I was too scared to ask. "Save him?" "Yes," he said, edit like he was disappointed. "He was actually asking to see you, but we told him you were asleep." Blade, I thought, awake now after weeks of being dead to me. My heart thudded inside of my chest. He wants to see me. I was too afraid. I didn't know why. I don't think there is a reason to why I was afraid. I just was. "Do you want to go see him?" "It's been like 3 weeks. You must really miss him." "No," interrupted. "I don't want to see him." "But I'm tired," I said, resting my head on the pillow. "I can't." He nodded his head, looking somewhat confused. "All right, well, I'll be sleeping on the chair if you need me." I nodded and turned around. I felt a teardrop from the corner of my eye. Blade. I thought. His name echoed in my mind. Awake. He's awake and he's not dead. As much as I repeated it to myself, I couldn't believe it. I guess it was because I let myself believe that he was dead. Gone forever. I never had any hope. So for him to be alive now, I just couldn't believe it. It was like bringing the dead back to life, and it scared the crap out of me. Blade's POV. I've been asking for hours now. My pack had visited, and I had asked. The Silver Reflections pack had visited me, and I had asked. Doctors and nurses have visited me, and I had asked. I was becoming sick of asking and always getting the same response. She's sleeping. I was beginning to think she had told the doctors that just to avoid seeing me. Why? Was it guilt or maybe fear? I looked at the time, 1:09 a.m. I've been asking for Emerald since 10 a.m. Nobody can sleep for 15 hours straight. I moved my body a bit to see if it would hurt. It was okay for a couple of seconds before pain shot through my leg where I remembered the rogue alpha had stood. I got out of her slowly, unattaining the machines off of me, and stood, but limping slowly to the door. I existed the room, walking into the hallways and opening each door in search of Emerald. I was having no such luck. I walked into a different hallway and opened a door that showed a sleeping bald girl clutching onto a doll. I continued until the last door, and I knew she was in there before I even opened it. I was hit with a beautiful aroma that I had missed so much. I opened the door. There sat Emerald, sleeping peacefully in her bed. So she was sleeping. I walked in slowly, shutting the door behind me and jumping at the sight of Jace sleeping on a chair beside her bed. I felt anger boiling my blood. I shoved at his shoulder. "What are you doing here?" I snapped, careful not to wake Emerald up. He jumped up and widened his eyes at the sight of me. "Blade, what are you doing here?" "I asked you first," I growled. "I was just watching over her. She was pretty tired." "Stay away from her," I growled louder, grabbing onto his arm. "I wasn't gonna." "Blade," said a sweet, soft voice that immediately melted my insides. "Is that you?" I let go of Jace and limped towards where Emerald was. We didn't speak for a minute or two. Instead, we let out eyes take in what was in front of them, both of us unbelieving that the other was alive. "I thought I lost you," Emerald broke the silence, her fingers resting on my jawline. I caught sight of Jace leaving the room and shutting the door behind him. I got into bed with Emerald and hugged her tight. "I miss you," I whispered into her hair. "I missed you too." I felt the wetness of her tears on my neck and held her tighter. "Why didn't you come see me? I've been asking for you the whole day." She sobbed into my chest. I was so scared. "Why?" I asked, feeling my guts squeezing upon themselves. "I thought you were never going to come back to me. I thought you were gone forever, and I didn't want to believe you were alive just for you to turn out dead. And I was terrified." I held her tighter, causing the machines to beep loudly. I smacked the machines a couple of times until it grew silent. "What happened, Emerald? Who did this to you?" I don't know. "Who attacked you?" My voice came out shaky and furious. "All I know was that it was a rogue," was her answer before she fell asleep in my arms. I woke up feeling Emerald stirring in my arms. The first thing I saw was her sleeping face and smiled. She was so beautiful. She suddenly opened her eyes, and they widened at the sight of mine. She jumped up, almost falling out of the bed. If I hadn't caught her, I chuckled while she blushed. "Sorry," she muttered. "Did I scare you?" I asked. "Kind of," she answered. The door suddenly opened, and in walked a nurse with a stroller that held our breakfast. "Morning, y'all," she chirped in a bright country accent. "Don't y'all look cozy?" Emerald sat up and smiled lightly. "Morning." "Breakfast is here. Eggs and bacon with some juice and bread," she said, placing the stroller in front of us. "Thank you," I pressed, hoping she would leave. Emerald's smiling lips were very inviting at the moment, and the blush on her cheeks only made my skin tingle more. "Oh," said the nurse, reaching into her back pocket and pulling out a sheet of paper. "We found some DNA traces of the rogue that attacked you, and we found this information about his." Emerald took the paper and peered at the words. I saw a long piece of fur and a picture beside it. It read ecru. "What does ecru mean?" I asked. "It's a type of brown color," she replied. "Her attacker had a very rare type of fur called ecru. It only happens when wolves turn 18 and never find their mate. Her attacker must have never found his mate." "How rare is it?" Emerald asked. "Less than 1% of the werewolf population has this type of fur." I looked at the paper. The fur held a strange color, almost like neon brown. "Oh, and also, wolves with ecru fur tend to be able to shift halfway." "Halfway?" I asked. "Yes, like they are easily angered because they have no mate. They sometimes shift into half humans, half wolves." "And only ecrus can do that?" "Yes, only ecrus." Later on that day, Emerald and I were moved back into my room and both placed into 2 different beds. My pack visited and then her pack visited, one at a time, because they still couldn't get along. Her pack had no idea that I was her mate, but they treated me fairly because our packs weren't enemies anymore. Everybody had something to say, and I looked over at a smiling Emerald who was patiently listening to what everybody had to say. I don't know how she did it. I was mentally shooting myself. I let my eyes wander across the room and stood up. "Where are you going?" asked Emerald. "Take a walk," I said. She couldn't say no because she was surrounded with her pack. They would question her concern for me. She nodded, giving me a small message in her eyes that said, "Be safe." I nodded and left. I walked into the waiting room, breathing in the annoying aroma of medicine and paint. I looked around. I caught sight of Jace and Jared outside, through the see-through walls. They seemed to be arguing about something. I sighed and looked around some more. I found my gaze going back to them. I wondered what they were fighting about. I looked at Jace and felt my hate for him slither in my bones like waves. If it wasn't for him, Em would have never been attacked by a rogue. Suddenly, I caught sight of his hands twitching. His claws were coming out and his fur was popping out. How can he possibly do that? I thought, wide-eyed. How can he shift halfway? I stepped closer and noticed his fur was a neon sort of brown. Ecru. Just like the results that the nurse had shown us, of Emerald's attacker. Blade's Pav. It was like an automatic pulse just flicked off and I was switched into Hulk mode. Suddenly, it all fit together like puzzle pieces. He's the cause. He's the cause for all of this. He's the one that almost killed my mate. He's the reason why I was so weak that I slipped into a coma. I saw them walk in through the transparent doors, entering the waiting room where I was standing. "Blade?" asked Jared. "What are you doing here? You got to get back to your room." My movements were so fast, it must have been like light to a human. Within a matter of seconds, I had Jace by the throat against a wall that was 5 meters away. "What are you doing?" I heard Jared, who was now 5 meters away. I slammed Jace into the wall a second time, causing the wall to collapse on itself and trickle to the ground. His eyes were wide open and his jaw was gaping, unable to pronounce any words to communicate. My fist connected with his lower jaw, and I heard a loud cracking sound indicating that I was breaking bones. But I wasn't going for a couple of severe injuries, or even coma. I was going for death. I felt Jared's hands on my shoulders, pushing me away, but with a simple swipe of hand, he was flying across the room. I growled out loud, begging my wolf to find me, but I wasn't fully healed. Even my anger couldn't make up for that. I felt myself vibrating with anger as I threw Jace to the ground, not giving him a chance to speak before placing my foot on his broken jaw. He screamed out loud as I removed my foot. He turned his head to the side and spat out blood. I looked around for the first time and noticed about 5 nurses surrounding me. I looked at Jace, who was begging me to stop with his eyes, but I couldn't. Just thinking about what he has done to Emerald, it had me loathing all over again. I stepped on his knee while it was at a painful angle, causing him to scream out loud again. I felt nurses coming towards me, but I was full gone now, full-on alpha werewolf, even though I was still in my human form. I felt his knee breaking before letting out a sick breaking sound and turning a bright purple immediately. I bent down and grabbed his head. A tear escaped the corner of his eye and landed on my foot. I looked up and saw that Emerald was there, being held back by Jared. "Stop," she mouthed to me, her tears traveling down her neck. "Now." I looked down at Jace and met his red eyes for a couple of seconds. "Please," he mouthed, "please." I grabbed a fistful of his hair and slammed his head into the ground as hard as I can muster. The floor below his head shattered and his eyelids dropped. Blood traveled in little lines, soaking my shoes. I stepped away from his body, letting the nurses take care of him. I looked at Emerald. "Are you done?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Yes," I answered. "Are you satisfied?" She stepped close enough to touch me and grabbed the back of my throat. With tears still in her eyes, she placed her lips on mine in a shocking lip lock and kissed me with all she can muster. I felt myself giving in to the kiss and letting all my anger drain away. I knew my pack was there, and I knew her pack was there too. But right there, at the current moment, I really didn't care. I felt her arms creeping around me and kissed her like it would be our last time kissing. It probably was. I was sick of living life, and so I killed myself within the kiss, mentally preparing myself for the worst, but physically giving my everything to Emerald. I felt us being by a strong hand that pushed us away from each other. I looked up to find Emerald's father staring at us like ghosts. I looked around and saw both of our packs staring at us like we were disgusting, crawling creatures beneath their feet. I saw Emerald's father beginning to drag her away, and her mother followed quickly with Jason. I looked at my pack, but they all gave me one last glance before walking away. Emerald's pav. Dad dragged me into the car and waited for Mom and Jason to get in before driving away from the hospital. The car drive was long and silent. I felt like an outcast. I felt like I was on my way to die. We finally reached home, and Dad exited the car first, making his way towards the house door. I look at Mom in desperation. I felt like a lost teenage. She sighed and exited the car, followed by Jason. I exited the car last, following them all inside the house. I knew what I had done back there had probably got us kicked out of the pack, and possibly every other pack in the country. We were like rogues now. No pack, no rules, no nothing. I didn't regret that, though. I didn't regret kissing Blade in front of them all. The truth had to come out sometime. I entered the house and saw Dad standing in the living room with Mom and Jason on the couch. I stepped forward, preparing to meet him at full height for the worst. We started at each other in the eye for about 10 seconds before the back of his hand struck too fast for my brain to register and swiped past my face with full power. I felt myself losing control and falling to the ground, my cheek throbbing in pain. "Richard," my mom snapped in a stern voice, "does anybody want to explain why my daughter just made out with a pack enemy in front of both packs?" He screamed out. When silence answered his anger, he screamed out louder. "Does anybody want to explain?" I got up slowly and stood up, facing him properly now. "Well," he snapped. "He's my mate," I said, my voice strong. "Your mate?" he asks. "Yes," I answered. "An enemy is your mate?" "Yes." "Do you know what this means for this family?" "Yes." "Every pack in the country, Emerald, every pack will know of this. We will be forced to become rogues. Sooner or later, we will be run out of this town." "I know. I can't let that happen." I stayed silent. "I'll give you two options." Mom got up. "Richard, she's our daughter." Mom reminded him. "I know," he snapped. "That's why I'm doing this." "What are my options?" I asked. "You forget all about your little mate, and we tell the packs that it was all some sort of sick, twisted mistake." "Or," I snapped, my voice shaky, "or I'll allow you to run away with him and pretend I never had a daughter." "Would you come looking for us?" I asked. "No, like I said, I'd pretend I'd never had a daughter." "Richard," Mom screamed at him, "there are other options." "Like what?" he screamed out at her. "Like dying. She's our daughter. We raised her together. How can you be so cold? What other option do you see? Maybe we can talk to the pack, convince them that she can't help it." "Mary, why do you think Blade's father betrayed us? This is a pack secret. But he betrayed us because we wouldn't let him mate with a woman from a different pack. So he made his own, and he mated with Blade's mother. But we killed him, Mary, and that's what they're going to do to Blade and her if they stay here. I'm doing this to protect her. Now." He turned towards me. "What's your decision?" "I'll run away with him." He nodded like he was expecting it. "Go pack." I turned around numbly and headed upstairs. I took out a medium-sized suitcase and filled it with cloths, money, and toiletries. I took out my wallet and looked through my spare money. I had about $52 in cash. I found my credit card, which had all my college savings, a couple of $1,000s. I stuffed that into the suitcase and took out my cell phone. I broke the little phone card in half and threw it away, stuffing my phone into the bag. I quickly changed out of my hospital gown into jeans and a sweatshirt. I ran downstairs, forcing myself to keep my tears in, and met Mom at the bottom step. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I was leaving. I saw Dad, who just shook my head and muttered, "Good luck." Jason stared at me for the longest time and looked away, letting Mom hug me. "I'm so sorry," she cried into my shoulder. "Life is so cruel to you. I'm so sorry." I hugged her back. "It's okay, Mom. I'll be fine." "Take this," she said, placing a little in my hands and whispered in my ear. "They can't track you with this. Call me every day." I nodded and kissed her cheek. I turned towards Jason. He placed his arms around me suddenly in a tight embrace. "Use that phone," he snapped in my ear. "You better." I nodded, still holding my tears in. I'll miss you. I let go of him and exited the house, seeing a taxi already parked outside. I waved goodbye to my mom and Jason and got in. St. Barbara's Hospital, muttered. A couple of minutes later, I knew it was safe to finally cry. I let the tears out finally, sobbing into my hands loudly. I knew the taxi driver was staring at me through the mirror, wondering what has gone wrong in my life. I suddenly remembered the bag that Mom had given me and opened it, seeing a brand new cell phone and a new credit card. I took out the letter inside and read it. Wherever you end up with your mate, make sure to tell me about it. Even though your father is ready to forget he's for a daughter, I'm not. Use the phone, they can't track it. And don't use your college money, I still expect you to go to college. Use the money on the card, the password is your name. It has a couple of thousand on it. Love, Mom. She must have known. I cried harder now and stayed crying until we reached the hospital. The taxi driver stopped by the gates and handed me a napkin box. Thanks, I said, taking out my wallet. How much? Free, now go get your mate, we have a long way to go. How? I mumbled confused. Your mom, he smiled. I locked eyes with him through the mirror, thank you. I exited the taxi and ran towards the hospital. I ran past the nurses and towards Blade's room. I drew the curtains, but he was nowhere in sight. I ran out of the room and saw a nurse. Excuse me, where did Blade go? The guy who almost killed the other today? Yes. He checked out a couple of seconds ago. You just missed him. I ran out the hospital room, towards the exit looking around for Blade, but he was nowhere in sight. I ran around for a couple of minutes and finally saw him. Epilogue 1. Suddenly, I didn't want to run up to him and demand he ran away with me. Suddenly, I was too afraid. I felt childish and stupid. How could we possibly run away? Where would we live? What about school? Where are we going to get money? I was about to walk away when he turned around. He must have felt my presence because I was sure I had been dead silent. Emerald? He asked like he couldn't believe it. They let you leave? Yeah, I muttered. Why? How? He stuttered, hardly believing me. I thought you'd be locked up somewhere by now. He stepped closer to me, his scars and bruises showing up more with every step. Suddenly, it hit me hard. The fight we've put up against reality for our love has gone for way too long. We fought so hard and broke every single rule, and look where we are now. We can't win. If we leave each other, our souls would drift away, and if we stay together, we will lose everything, maybe even our lives. We are at risk either way. Emerald, Blade was saying, are you okay? The truth was I wasn't okay. I didn't want to admit to myself, but all of this stress and sadness that I have been trying to hide has built up, and I was tired. I was depressed, and all I wanted was some peace and quiet. Talk to me. I was sick and tired of playing the tough girl. I wanted to curl up at bed and listen to some corny, slow instrumental and fall asleep like I used to when my life was still normal. Run away with me. I whispered the words so faintly that they barely entered my own ears. What? Blade asked. Run away with me, I repeated with a bit more volume. Emerald, there are other ways. There are 3 choices, Blade, I snapped. We stay together and they kill us both. We leave each other and our wolves' depression kills us both, or we run away and nobody will be able to hurt us, not even ourselves. Where will we go? He asked. What about school and money and... My mom planned something with the taxi driver. Let's see where it will take us. What taxi driver? Come with me. Hand in hand, we walked towards the taxi and got in. He looked at us through the review mirror and smiled. He started the engine and began to drive. Where are we going? Asked Blade. Don't worry, it's a nice place, he answered. About half an hour later, we reached a large clearing. It seemed strangely familiar. The driver drove deeper into the clearing, revealing a large pond. That's when it hit me. It was like a sudden drop at a roller coaster. My heart, thudding on its way, sank deep into my pit, and I felt my hands shaking as I muttered, This can't be the spot. Let's see here, he said, checking his damn map. Yup, it's the spot. It can't be. Are you okay? Blade asked. This is the spot that your mother had written down. Oh, here's the note she asked me to give you when we get here. I snatched it out of his fingers and shakily read it out loud. I know it seems scary, but just give it a chance. Take the boat to the very end, and you might be surprised at what you might find. Have a good life, sweetie. Mom. What does she mean? It may be scary, Blade asked. The driver was out of the car and taking out my suitcase. I exited and went to talk with him. Look, you don't understand. This can't be the place. I snapped. Is there any other place she asked you to take me? Nope, he said and got into the car. Wait, I snapped, but he was already driving away. Where does he think he's going, leaving us in the middle of nowhere? Blade snapped, kicking the dirt. I sigh. Let's just take that boat and see where it takes us, I muttered shakily. Em? He stepped closer. What's wrong? You're pale. I picked up the suitcase and set it in the boat. I caught a little broken piece on it from the back, and I knew it's from where I had hooked myself the time Jace tried to drown me. Blade sighed and followed me, sitting down on the boat. He started to row and the boat was slowly moving. I tried to control the speed of my heart and focused on counting the lily pads on the water. A couple of minutes later, we pushed past vines and saw beautiful swans in the water. Emerald, it's been 10 minutes and you haven't spoken a word. Please tell me what's wrong, Blade spoke. Epilogue 2. This is where Jace tried to drown me, I said, not bothering to beat around the bush. We were on this boat, and then it flipped and we fell into the water. I was seeing the images now, just as if I was still there. I saw Jace's angry face and his sharp claws aiming for my throat. Why did your mother bring us here then, of all places? Blade snapped angrily. I don't know, I muttered. She decides to bring us to some pond an hour away in the middle of nowhere. I don't know, I muttered a bit louder. Doesn't she know what this will do to you? She's bringing you back to the place where you were almost murdered. Does she even know that this is the place? I don't know, I yelled, letting out my frustration and anger. I don't know anything. It looked like I know from when I was freaking out inside that taxi. Silence drifted upon us for a moment. Suddenly, I felt the tears escape the corners of my eyes, and before I knew it, I was sobbing into Blade's arms. They held me protected from the whole world as we sailed across the pond as slowly as ever, embracing each other with the small amount of strength we had left in us. And I finally realized that from now on, I couldn't let reality wear me away because I might just fully disappear. About 30 minutes later, we reached the end of the pond through a meter-thick gap full of vines and other plants. The first thing we saw was a wooden pathway. With our eyes, we followed the pathway up until it reached a house. It was a big wooden house, only 2 stories, but very wide and long. It was facing the pond, and it had amazing wooden balconies that provide the best views. Blade and I looked at each other, months wide open, and hurriedly exited the boat. We ran up to the front door and saw a note taped to the mailbox. Emerald, it read, I'm sorry for everything that I have caused. I know that there's nothing I can do to make up for what I did, but here's a small gift to show you how truly sorry I am. This is where I stayed when I lived here. I know it seems lonely because it's in the middle of nowhere, but you have Blade, and also, behind the house, you'll see a road, and if you follow it, about 20 minutes later, you'll reach a new town. There is also a small high school nearby and even a couple of colleges and a university. Make sure to check out Mrs. Juana's diner. She makes the best cupcakes. As for me, I'm traveling down south to lead my new pack of rogues. I'm going to try to make good people out of them. I hope you like the house. Jace? Silence drifted upon me and Blade for a moment as we tried to register everything that has happened. Jace is gone, and this house is ours. I looked up at Blade. That was, he muttered. Really nice of him to do, I said. Damn, he gave us a house. Almost makes up for what he did. Let's go in, I muttered. I found a key in the mailbox and unlocked the door, stepping inside to the living room. Almost everything was made out of wood. There was a cozy fireplace in the center of the room, against the wall surrounded by brown leather couches. The furry carpet made me want to take off my shoes and just curl up in it. There was a flat-screen TV on the other side of the room and a coffee table. Upstairs, said Blade. We ran up and looked in every single room. There were 3 bedrooms all together, and the last one we saw was the one that we were going to sleep in. It was the largest and coziest out of all of them. The walls were a deep maroon color, and so were the sheets on the bed. There were 2 washrooms in the house, the most beautiful kitchen, and even an office area. Despite the house being in the middle of nowhere on a pond, The TV worked, and the cell phone my mother had given me had 2 bars allowing me to make calls, but instead, I texted her letting her know we arrived. Epilogue 3. After exploring the rest of the house, we ended up back in the living room. "We need to enroll in that high school," I said to Blade. "We still have a couple of months before we graduate." "Can you believe this?" Blade said. He still seemed to be in a daze. "We can finally be together. I can finally kiss you without feeling like I have a gun held to my brain," he breathed out. I smiled and held him close by his collar. I planted a kiss on his lips, and slowly it grew more and more passionate. He pushed me onto the sofa, and I began to take off my shoes when I heard a knock on the door. Who could it be? Blade froze and muttered, "I don't know." He walked towards the door, pushing me back and opening it slowly. Suddenly, the whole house was filled with noise as Lisa, John, and Jason entered through the door, holding bags and bags of groceries and food. "Welcome home," Lisa screamed out, giving me the largest hug of my life. "We brought food," John screamed out, hitting me with yet another hug. "And groceries," said Jason, coming in for a hug too. "How did you guys know?" I snapped. "Mom told us all," said Jason. "Who else knows?" Blade said. "No one, and we promised not to tell a soul," said Lisa. We all sat down in the living room and chatted while Lisa opened up the chicken and set it in front of us. "Enjoy?" she said. "You didn't cook it, did you?" I asked, holding a piece of chicken a foot away from my mouth. "No way," said John. "We bought it." "So how are you liking this house?" asked Jason. "It's so cool. It's so big too, and the views from the balconies are amazing." Lisa wiped away a fake tear. My best friend, finally running away from home and living with her boyfriend. This is so romantic. "You should have seen John's face when he saw you kiss Blade," said Jason. "Oh yeah, you all knew expect for him," I said. "Thanks for telling me, by the way," snapped John. "Anyway, he almost fainted." Lisa laughed out loud. I realized that Blade was really quiet, and I knew it was because he didn't even know these people. I smiled sadly at him and rubbed his knees. He smiled back and put his hands on top of mine. "By the way, how did you guys even get here?" "There was no boat," I said. "We did a circle and drove through another house. We came from the back of the house." It must have been what Jace meant in his note. "Oh," I muttered. When they finally decided to leave, Blade and I thanked them for the week worth of food and shut the door. "That was nice them," I muttered into his neck. "It's a good thing your mom told them. Otherwise we would have starved," Blade joked. I laughed, and he placed his forehead on mine. I kept one eye on the clock, and when it turned 12 a.m., I smiled at him. "You're 19 now." "What?" he asked. "It's your birthday, you're 19, I smiled. "Damn, it's my birthday already. I didn't even notice." "I have a birthday present for you," I smiled. "What is it?" he asked. "I'm ready to be your mate now," I muttered. "You are my mate," he said. "I mean physically," I whispered into his ear. I felt him shudder and smiled as I slowly kissed his neck. He placed his lips on mine and gave into the lust that has been driving us crazy. His kisses became more passionate the deeper we got. I tasted him on my tongue and felt him everywhere in my body. All of my 5 senses revolved around him, because at the current moment, I could see him, his beautiful golden eyes closed as he gently bit my neck. I could hear him. The sound of his heart beating in sync with mine drove me insane with want. I could feel him, my hands touching anything that was his, traveling up and down his back, gripping his neck and running my fingers through his hair. I could smell him. He smelled like shampoo and wood, and right now it was the most intoxicating scent I've ever smelled. I could taste him, his taste dancing on my taste buds, teasing me even more as he slowly bit my lip. I felt his hands gripping my waist and pulling me even closer to him. I ripped off his shirt, revealing his beautiful, glinting chest, and digging my lips into the arc of his neck. He parted my lips with his own as his hands traveled down to the hem of my shirt to rip it off. Within the few spare seconds we had before attacking each other, I heard him whisper, "Are you sure?" I felt myself nodding without control, eager to go back to tasting him. But he held me away and whispered 3 words that stopped my heart. "I love you." "I love you too," I whispered, my voice shaking. And we carried on.